Bienvenidos a otro episodio de Between Nerdos. Soy Drew Alias y mi compañero Aldo Mendez.
How's it going, Drew? How you doing this week, man?
What's up? If anybody knows me personally, just know that I am trying to learn Spanish. I've been trying for like a year and a half. It's not fucking working. But welcome back to Between Nerds. My name is Drew Alias. This is Aldo Mendez. And
we went over that in Spanish.
Yeah, I know we did. But for our English listeners, I'm just reiterating that.
Okay, awesome. That we're Drew Alias and Aldo Mendez.
Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Now that we've said our names three times each.
We can plug our stuff, I guess.
This is probably the funniest intro we've ever done. Bro, so yes, we are Between Nerds, and please use hashtag LGBT Nerds in original tweet or Instagram post so that we can donate to the Borderland Rainbow Center. And if you use hashtag LGBT Nerds.
Yeah.
In original tweet or Instagram post, you will automatically be entered into our June giveaway. It is the last week to do so.
Correct.
And so far, I think we only have 3-4 entries. It's
yes, but we've had a lot of likes in different tweets, so you know the likes are there. The people entered is not that much, but the likes are good. So
yeah, it looks like $30-$40 so far. So like if y'all want, what would be dope is like get it to like 50-60, something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like
just hit those likes, retweets, and
like it costs you nothing. You know what I mean?
You're scrolling already, bro. Just fucking hit it.
And we're donating to the Borderland Rainbow Center.
Yes, we have exciting news. I mean, for this month, we'll get to that on the Nerd Down.
Yeah. What was the exciting news?
All that we talked about, you know?
Yeah, we have the whole month of July planned. So if y'all want to know like what to watch with us, if you're watching along with us, just wait for the Nerd Down and we'll be going over all of that because we have the next 5 weeks planned.
Cool. Yeah, and this last week we watched a recommendation from my friend Jay in Las Vegas. Shout out to you, Jay. We watched Hinamatsuri.
Hinamatsuri, the studio feel, lowercase f with a period, original, well, not anime original, but it is their adaptation of a light novel that was produced in like 2017 or something like that.
Correct. I'm from what we watched this last week, I'm curious to see how different the light novel is, because it seems like they just put shit in there sometimes.
When I read that it was a light novel, I was almost like surprised it was even a light novel. Because when I think a light novel, and I think about like how John was describing light novels last week even, where it's like there's so much information jam-packed into a book. You know what I mean? Like it's a real narrative story. But you're watching Hinamatsuri, and it's a lot more episodic. It's a lot more like... It almost feels like a Sunday...
I had to turn off my brain to watch it because I kept trying to be like, where's the density in this anime? But there's none, but there is.
There's not really an overarching narrative. There is, but there isn't, because there's no weight on it.
Yes, there's no weight if you don't look for it, like if you're just blatantly watching it like that. But then I started paying attention. I'm like, okay, like we said, like I was telling you before we started recording, it's a seisen in comparison to like a shonen. So it's not targeted to teen boys, it's targeted to young adults.
Yeah, because we do see that. There's a lot of, not explicitly sex-related stuff, but there's a lot of drinking. There's random drug use. There's like... They don't call them I was gonna say prostitute. They don't call them that, but there's like some escorts.
Some escort jobs.
Yeah. Is that the PC
workers
term?
Yeah. But I also saw like a guy taking care of his daughter. Right. Like the narrative of how the daughter gets there, it's weird, but like
it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter because this guy is actually trying to take care of a child's psyche.
Yeah, it feels like if Mob Psycho 100 and The Way of the House Husband just had a baby. Like this
exactly.
And it's just a perfect blend of those two. And it's not bad. Don't get me wrong. And I feel like going into this, I'm going to be a little negative, but I don't mean it like that. You know what? It's because it's not anything too special. And I think it almost knows that in and of itself.
Correct. And I don't... Yeah, and I feel like I was looking for that special oomph in it, but it doesn't have it, but it doesn't make it bad.
Yeah. Like, if you need, like, an easy breezy watch and, like, something just turn your brain off, like you were saying, and something just chill out on the couch too, like, Hinamatsuri is it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very fun. It's very well animated, by the way. You said they save it for the last episode, but in some instances, like, for example, face reactions in Demon Slayer, how they just go the easy route and they make like a doodle almost. You know what I'm saying? In this anime, when you have a reaction, they emphasize the animation around it.
And I think that has a lot to do with its original publications, because when I read the Demon Slayer manga, it's almost like weird to pick up the manga if you're a huge fan of the Demon Slayer anime, because the manga looks so low quality compared to like the pristine animation quality that is Demon Slayer, which is really, really weird to think about. Because when you pick up the manga, although like it's already a modern classic, it has really poor lining, bad shading. A lot of the reactions in the faces are in the background, and they look like what like a second grader would draw almost. Yeah. And you're right. When I saw those faces in here, I looked up like stills of the light novel, and it's those same overdrawn faces. It's like the exact opposite. Mm-hmm. And I think that's funny how they're kind of doing the same gag, but through different methods.
Yes, they are.
And like, just getting into the plot a little bit about Hinamatsuri, it's like a funny premise in and of itself.
Yes.
Because it's like, I called it like Mob Psycho 100. It's like if a supremely powerful telepath just appeared inside of a Yakuza member's living room one day.
Yeah.
And like, she's just so powerful and strong, she just like turns him into his bitch. And he just does everything she wants. Like this Japanese gangster is now privy to like this middle schooler with psychic powers.
So the premise got me excited about it.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? My friend told me, it's like, hey bro, you should watch this one. It's about a Yakuza that gets like this stepdaughter, blah, blah, blah. And I was like, okay, cool. That sounds kind of cool. Whatever. But then we find out the Nita, our Yakuza member, it's more on the, like, on the admin kind of area.
Yeah, he's basically an accountant, or like he's a data processor. You know what I mean?
Something like that. You know what's funny? That I mean, I've seen like articles and stuff like that of like how in Japan, like the Yakuza are not like the Yakuza that you think of with like guns and swords and killing people and stuff like that, but they're more in the like government officials kind of thing. They're more in like corporations. They're more in shit like that.
Like they're shitty businessmen, like on the border of being outside the law almost. Mm-hmm. You know, because we see that here. Like, these people have real ties to like the government, have working relationships with cops and local business owners. Mm-hmm. And just because I don't know if y'all can hear this rain, but it's getting rainy out here.
Yeah, it is raining. That's crazy.
I think this is the first recording we've ever done in the rain. Anyways, what was I talking about? And I think there's a point at the end of Hinamatsuri where like somebody even says like, this isn't how we do it anymore. That's like the old way the mob works, because they're doing like really mob shit.
Yeah,
and they were like, no, bro. Like, imagine if you're watching The Sopranos and everyone gets like talked down. They're like, no, bro, we might get in trouble with the cops. Don't do that.
It's like, let's put some shoes on this fool. It's like, whoa, brother, what are you talking about?
Which is funny. So you're right. So we meet Mr. Nita, who looks...
Nita is the correct pronunciation, though. Nita.
Damn, I'm so good at this. See, Spanish helps you learn Japanese.
Yeah.
Anyways, so he looks like a douche. You know what I mean? Like, he looks like a douchey monster. Like, he's got blonde hair, which we know in like a school setting would normally mean like a delinquent or something like that. And he's wearing like gold chains, and he's
got a scar on his eye.
He's got a scar over his eye, and he's like always wearing like a suit and like a white collared shirt, but the shirt's always open. He's got all these like bracelets on and like nice shoes.
Anyways, this fucking like Dragon Ball kind of Goku orb capsule shows up in his apartment.
It literally looks like a capsule from fucking Dragon Ball. Yeah.
And there's this girl in there. She's like Mob in Mob Psycho. She's like, hey, very monotone. Hey, like,
blank face, super monotone, awkward,
on the spectrum.
I wasn't gonna bring it up, but yeah, that's how like Hinamatsuri feels a lot, because like she has not social anxieties, but she cannot read like social situations. And they kind of pick on that a lot without saying it out loud, because it'll be like she can't improvise in a conversation. If you tell her to say something because you've got a big secret, she's just going to keep repeating that one line you gave her.
Correct. And it's weird how we like learn more and more about like, you know, autism and stuff, and how we speak about it. And like you were like, I didn't want to bring it up, but like I think it's good to bring it up because the spectrum, we don't even know a lot about that autism spectrum.
No, I agree. Yeah. I wasn't trying to come off like that. It's because it's not that like I'm uncomfortable talking about it. It's because I feel like, especially in like a work of art or a publication or a show, unless it's explicitly said, it's almost rude to assume. You know what I mean? If I can infer like all these things, which are super obvious and super like superficial.
Correct.
Like, I'd be a bad watcher of said medium if I didn't notice it.
Correct.
But to use that language, I feel like I have to be given permission almost.
Oh, okay, I get you. Yeah, that makes sense.
You know what I mean? It's like you have friends that you can say slur. You've called me slurs before. Yes. You know what I mean? And like
you call me slurs.
Yeah. It's because we're
mostly you. But yeah,
you called me a Hispanic slur in front of your son the other day. 1 month old Zaid, and he laughed. And I think that says a lot about where he's gonna be going in life.
Yeah.
But like it's hilarious. But it's because we have that understanding, and like we've mutually given each other like permission that like verbal consent almost to
we're between boys. It's like it's busting chops.
Yeah, I'm not gonna go out to like a complete stranger and be using this kind of fucking language. Like that'd be the worst fucking thing in the world to do. You know what I mean? So yeah, but side tangent there. But yeah, she's different. She's just a different kind of person. She's super awkward, and the episode 1 is hilarious because it's like what you're saying. She just appears in a capsule. Her arms and legs are like tied inside of said capsule.
Cocoon-like.
Yeah. It looks like a cocoon, but it's hilarious because it's just her stupid face.
Dragon Ball, when Majin Buu eats the people, when he absorbs the people, it's like the Majin Buu pods inside.
Yeah, like inside of him when they're hanging on the like pink jelly.
That's exactly what it is.
Yeah, and it's just, but like it's funny with Hina because she has a stupid face.
Yeah.
So it's just her blank face, and like he thinks he's drunk. He thinks he's like tripping.
Yeah, and he starts. So he sees this at night while he's drinking at home, like you know a normal person does, and
by himself.
And he sees this pod fall from the middle of his living room, and he just starts clapping, and he's like, "You did it! You got fucked up or something like that." And he dismisses it and comes back the next morning. He's like, "Oh shit, it's still here."
Congratulations, Nita! You've officially lost your mind. Just goes to bed, and yeah, she's still out there, and she's still like, just like, "Hey, please let me out." And he does it because on the back is like a little stupid button, and then she lets him out. But like she's this all-powerful psychic, and like what we saw at the very beginning is that he has vases, like expensive vases.
A little bit of like before she shows up, a little premise dialogue is that he's like, "Oh, okay," like he's looking at his vase collection. He's like, "Oh, cool, maybe a couple more years and I'll get it how I like it." Blah blah. And he has like maybe 6 vases on like this little shelf, and like he has paintings of vases of a vase that it's also like super expensive.
And you were showing me right before we started recording, like they look like mock-ups of like really like $20 million level vases. You know what I mean? And even like a replica of something that's worth that much would be worth like hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah.
We're talking about $18 million vases, $55 million vases. You're like, okay, this guy's Yakuza for sure. And yeah, she breaks everything. She's like, okay, fuck.
Yeah, because she's like, feed me. And he's like, who the fuck are you, bitch? Fuck you. Breaks the vase. Oh shit, my bad.
With her psychic powers, by the way.
Which is like also funny about Nita's character because it's like he's such a dork, like a fucking nerd, you know what I mean? Just like he's Yakuza, has access to guns and all this influence and women, and he's always at the bar and all this badass shit, but he's a fucking nerd who just like enjoys his vase collection.
The bar scenes are fucking awesome. I love the bar scenes. But anyways,
because it feels like
like I was a bartender.
It feels like How I Met Your Mother. It feels like a real bar.
It feels like Common Ground almost.
Yeah, Common Ground was a bar that I was working at 2 years ago when I lost my job at the medical school here in El Paso, and I was forcing them to do anime nights every Thursday, right? And it was the only night I made my money because I would invite all my friends just to play anime on the projectors. But you're right, it was just people just shitting on each other, just having real conversations, because that's why people are regulars at bars, you know what I mean? So they can have that personable connection over drinks in an environment with music and lights and shit, right? But I feel like a lot of times, or lately, I haven't had that experience in a while. It's just was my server nice? So, okay, cool, I had fun.
Yeah.
And that's a lot of times what we see in anime. This is the first time, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think this is the first time I've ever seen in anime, a real, personable, real world situation in a bar. It's always bad shit happening in a bar. It makes me think of Cowboy Bebop and this fool just shooting the place up.
Yeah, Cantina in Mexico or some shit that's part out of shit.
It's the beginning of To a New Hope. You know what I mean? Just
hand shot first, bro.
No,
hand shot first, bro.
The one where Greedo shoots his cannon.
No, hand shot first. Anyways, but yes. After that, I think, it's the whole eating stuff, and then she just gets very comfortable. By the way, she appears naked, but...
Yeah, butt-ass naked.
Butt-ass naked.
She's 12, too, so... And, that's how you also know Nita's a good guy, because right away he's like, yo...
You can be naked.
And we've even talked about anime on here, where, grown adults are, really weird how they talk about, 12, 13-year-old girls. Mm-hmm. Even boys, sometimes. And I'm thinking of Hunter x Hunter... in the front of my head when I say that, but it's just there's so many small cues that show what a good character he is.
In the writing in this parts, I was when that first happened, when she just appeared naked, after she gets out of the pod, I was oh, it's gonna get weird, but it doesn't. And even the character design while she's naked is not prominent. It's not telling you to look at her or anything like that. It's very just simple drawn.
It's a joke
on top.
Yeah. It always treats it like a joke, which is so mature of it. Almost.
Yeah, it's not trying to sexualize this little kid or anything like that.
Did you watch the after credit scene in episode 1?
I don't think so.
It's super annoying because it's the only episode with an after credit scene,
and then you keep watching the
So after episode 1, I saw that there was 7 minutes left in the episode. I'm like, that's weird. So then I look and there is an after credit scene, but that has me in the 11 other episodes looking for an after credit scene, and none of the other ones have one. But anyways, the only reason I bring that up is because this one is referenced here, because she gets out of the little capsule suit thing that was containing her, and all that pops out is a little red ball. It looks like a clown nose, right?
Yeah, I would say, I was gonna say like a fish egg, like a oversized fish egg almost.
Yeah, and but the after credit scene is Nita pressing it, and that puts him in the capsule suit. Mm-hmm. And Hina's such a bitch. She sees him in the suit. He's like, let me out. She just walks away. Yeah. And he spends 36 hours straight in the thing, several days. And he pisses himself inside of it. So then she finally takes pity on him and lets him out. And it's just a warm stream, vapor of piss coming out. Yeah. And he just tries to beat the shit out of her, but
and she fucks up the little ball that we know
she lost important.
It. Oh, she lost it.
She lost it. Remember?
Oh, who fucks it up?
It's because that's what I mean. In halfway through the season,
Ansu fucks it up. She puts it in the washer or something.
Yeah. Mm. But it barely even matters. But I just bring it up because it's funny. That's one of the gags, in episode 1.
I just feel mention it because there's a lot of instances of this anime where you think something's gonna matter, but it doesn't.
Yeah, nothing ever matters, and it's almost annoying. It's a joke at first, and you're like, "Oh, that's so stupid, that's so funny," but then sometimes it's just so frustrating because she goes to school and she's just awful. You know what I mean? She sleeps in class all fucking day, and just and all her classmates think she's really fucking weird, but the gag here is that Nita like explicitly tells her like, yo, don't use your powers, your super hyperkinetic powers ever.
In front of people,
or in front of people, or period. He says period at first. So like she explodes inside of his apartment from like over-contained psychic energy and destroys more of his vases and more of his paintings.
He's like, fuck. It's like, we need to take you somewhere to use your fucking powers. And it almost reminded me of like the Konosuba with Kazuma and Megumi. When they go to explode that castle.
Yeah.
He wants to get off.
It's exactly like that. But, like, this one's funny because it's Nita's fault. Like, she's literally so streamlined and so, like, slow that, like, she took him at his literal meaning. And she didn't explain that if she didn't use her psychic powers, she would explode from keeping it inside of her.
Yeah.
And so, like, his bright-ass idea is, like... Because he's a money man. He's, like, an accountant for the mob, so he's just, like...
Getting side jobs for the mob.
Yeah. And his bright-ass idea is, like, to take her with him on these journeys. So they're just, like, logging.
Yeah, she takes her logging, so she just, like, rips the trees out of the ground and then shaves them down. Something that will take, like, forever to do, and she just does it, like, real quick. So he gets a quick buck for the mob.
Yeah, which is, like, a super, like, kind of boring narrative, which at first when I saw it, I'm like, oh, that's so boring. They're just gonna be doing, like, odd jobs and stuff with their powers. But the joke about that, or the significance of that, is that because he doesn't want anything from her, like, he's just super appreciative after, like, she tears down this land and cleans these trees or whatever. He's just like, I'll take you for dinner, for lunch, whatever, and not even to, like, butter her up, just because he's a nice guy. Like, he wants to take care of her, and that becomes the joke later on, is that, like, he just loves her, you know what I mean? And he wants to take too good of care of her.
But then at the beginning, doesn't he take her to the mall to, like, show his appreciation, but then she just takes a leg out of him? Like, she's like, yeah, I want this, I want that, I want this. Like, he ends up spending all the money that you got from the logging.
This 12-year-old girl, like, racks up, like...
She fucking psychic bent hers. I literally bent his arm behind his back, like, with his psychic powers.
Yeah, but that's like... Oh, God, it's so... Now that I'm talking about it, I think it's so funny. Like, I feel like I'm watching it, I'm like, wow, this is so dumb. But talking about it makes me laugh because you're like, that's right. That's like when it first happened, when he didn't want to bake her a meal, and she literally, like, bends his arm behind his back. But the scene you're describing at the mall, they're at a whole-ass department store, like a rich-ass department store. They're not at fucking Macy's or JCPenney or some shit.
I was about to say, they were at Macy's. Here in El Paso, they were at Macy's.
They were at a real department store with some money, and this guy's trying to check out at the register because she's getting, like, expensive coffee mugs, clothes, toys, video games, all that shit. And, like, it comes out to, like, 500,000 yen. That's, like, $5,000.
Yeah, dude.
This girl crazy. You've known for 12 hours, like, just racks up $5,000 at a department store?
I want that $2,000 coffee cup because I like the handle of it. It's like, no, we're not going to get it. Then she fucking, like, bends her arm behind him.
Hilarious.
That's just hilarious, dude.
So stupidly funny. And fuck,
it's way better to talk about it.
And that's, like, all in episode 1, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like, there's so little plot in episode 1, and that's all of it. And because, so, like, in episode, like, 2, we're finally, we think we're gonna get, like, some backstory about her. You know what I mean? Because episode 2 starts, some blonde chick with psychic powers, like, crashes down into downtown Tokyo, and she's out here to be a bad bitch, and it's just like...
Bro, and again, like, my first time watching this, I'm like, okay, the plot is gonna get fucking... It's gonna start developing, unfolding and shit like that. When the blonde girl shows up, Anzu, like, I was like, oh, this is some Terminator shit.
Yeah, you know that's exactly what I thought.
It's like, this bitch is gonna go try to kill Hina, and then they're gonna go into fucking
it looked like Terminator 2, bro.
But no, dude, Hina just fucking... I mean, Ansu just fucking shuts down the whole thing, bro. She's so sad. Her character development throughout the whole anime is awesome.
I hate that you're saying that, number one, because I cannot stand Anzu in this.
She was the person that learned the most about her experience on Earth. By the way, these are inner cosmic beings. Like, they're from another dimension. Like, dimension.
If you've been watching the Loki series, they're like the NWA or whatever. Like a
NWA?
What are they called?
The TVA?
Yeah, they're like the TVA, like this interdimensional...
Ice Cube, Dr. Dre.
They're like these interdimensional beings that work for, like, a government organization. This is what I was trying to get across. Like, they're these hyper psychic powers girls that work for a government that's not even part of this dimension.
Yeah.
And What? Oh fuck! What I do want to bring up about Hina one more time before I go into Anzu that I just remembered is like the significance of her being appreciative for him buying her shit and not trying to exploit her too much because of her powers and like being super appreciative is that she like murders an entire Yakuza gang for him, which is like the funniest shit because he gets in trouble at work, right?
Yeah.
He gets called into work and they're like, yo, the boss just got shot, blah, 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 come through. And they tell him, of all people, the fucking nerd accountant, like, you better go take care of this shit.
You don't do shit all the time. You never get out there or whatever. Yeah.
You're never one of the foot soldiers. You're never fucking out there. Go murder this whole fucking gang and get revenge for our boss. And he's just like, oh fuck, what the fuck am I gonna do?
And he doesn't at first. He decides not to go, but then Hina overheard this conversation.
She goes with him to the office, right?
Yeah.
The Yakuza like headquarters.
She's just chilling in something, ice cream or some shit.
She's having tea on the couch.
Oh yeah,
and like one of the gruntsmen, she's like, "Oh my god, this is the most
Best
wonderful
thing.
tea I've ever had." And he's like, "Oh, I got it at the 100 yen store, which is like the dollar store."
Yeah,
you know what
7-Eleven kind of thing.
No, like a literal dollar
okay.
store, like how we have like the 99-cent store and shit. 100 yen's $1. You know what I mean? So it's this cheap ass fucking like cup of tea, and every time she goes back to that Yakuza office, she says the same thing.
By the way, tea nerds on TikTok, bro, they are on some shit. I don't know if you've seen some of these videos, but
How the fuck did you get stuck in tea TikTok?
bro, I have no idea. But
I get stuck in like cartel TikTok a lot.
I don't know why you would get stuck in cartel TikTok, bro. But anyways,
so she hears that whole conversation, like you're talking about, and like he pulls up, he's super fucking scared. He just got handed a gun by his lieutenant boss, and he's like, "Oh fuck, I can't do this. I'm gonna fucking get burned as soon as I walk in there." And she's just like, "Don't worry about it.
stay out here.
I'll take care of it. Robot girl, go execute mission."
Yeah.
And she just, but like it's funny because like you just hear screaming on the inside, like, "Who the fuck are you, bitch?"
Yeah.
And just like like all this screaming and people being thrown through windows and shit.
Yeah, because the whole scene, it's from the outside behind Nita and just looking at the building. And like you said, she goes in and is like, "Hey, who the fuck is this kid? Whoa, shit!" And like people start flying out the door, and then eventually, because of you're watching, obviously she gets to the second floor, and then just bodies start like flying out of the building, and then he's just like, "Oh shit, well, all right, let's go."
And he just walks in, and she's like, "I have executed the mission. Everyone is now eliminated. Now Nita will give me praise. Yay!"
Yay! Yeah, because she like even though she's so monotone and mono emotional, is that. Yeah, she still cares. Like, she's still like, "Oh, I want to do something nice for this guy that I just fucking."
And then that's where we get into the meme where, like, as a reward, he takes her out for conveyor belt sushi, and she's like, "Wow, I've never had sushi this high quality. Is this how everybody eats?" And like that's the conveyor belt sushi is like the equivalent of like going to Golden Corral or some shit.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And continuously going back to the steak aisle. Like,
The cheese fountain.
yeah, you know what I mean? It's like that. So it's not the highest of quality.
Yeah.
And like she just keeps ordering salmon roe, which is like this garbage fucking sushi if you've ever had it. It's like the fucking worst because like salmon should never be a sushi. But and like he just racks up like this $100,000 tab.
Correct. And the reason it's shitty sushi is because like sushi. There's a lot of Puritans around sushi, so they just believe about the rice, a fish thing, and a little bit of soy sauce, and that's it.
Right.
But like the rolls that she's getting is like spicy salmon, whatever.
Everything short of a deep fried roll. Like
People in America. Don't eat sushi with mayonnaise, hot mayonnaise on it.
Don't stop deep frying your sushi.
Stop deep frying your sushi.
That's the most American thing, bro. I think about that all the time.
Dude, that guy that was like, just fucking fry it, bro. Let's see if they fucking eat it. They fucking ate it. And they're being eating it.
I hate that. Because, like, imagine being Japanese and, like, you just walk in. Yeah, imagine.
Wash the rice.
More TikTok references. Anyways. Yes. Okay, so we're back on Anzu after that whole little detour. And she like lands, and right away she's like, I need to look for Hina. And, like, so a biker gang comes through, and they're like, who the fuck is this stupid bitch? Get the fuck out of here, you stupid cunt. And, like, she's just like, who are these guys talking shit about me? And she's just, like, destroys all of them and steals, the leader's, like, jacket, like, his leadership coat.
Yeah, the patched.
Yeah, so, like, the rest of the anime, she's just walking around in, like, this badass Yakuza outfit. But she's, like, the saddest person overall.
And it's, like, oversized on her, so she's, like, in old baggy clothes. It's hilarious now that we're talking about it. Because it's really fun to enjoy all these little parts that we're talking about.
Because when you're watching it, it's just like, fuck, this is so dumb, dorky. Like, this is so dumb funny. Like, I can't even laugh at it. But, like, trying to describe it out loud, like, it's hard because I want to, like, giggle and laugh the entire time. And the thing about Nita, is that... The thing about Anzu is that she's looking for Hina, but it's Nita that finds her first.
Yes.
And he's just doing his dumbass Yakuza shit, and she's just out here just robbing restaurants and convenience stores and shit. And she's like, where the fuck is Hina? Where the fuck is this? And Nita, like, wanting to, like, not everything be destroyed and his apartment not to be destroyed, and Anzu, like, find Hina in his apartment and destroy all his badass paintings and vases and shit. Tries to diffuse the situation because he's like an adult. He's like almost 30 and these girls are like 12, 13 years old. So he like gets them both in the park and he's like, okay, look, I know y'all both want to have a badass psychic battle, which I thought was some Mob Psycho 100 shit was going to happen. I'm like, oh, fuck, this is going to be
And he kind of did.
Not really, though.
With Dimple? It was the same fucking, like, laughing thing.
Boo.
Almost.
Boo. Okay, so Nita's whole thing is he makes up a game. He's like, okay, we're gonna let y'all use your psychic powers, like, in sequential, like, not at the same time.
But you have to beat each other at a game of Rochambeau.
Yeah, it's fucking rock, paper, scissors. Person that loses rock, paper, scissors is gonna have the other person, like, use their psychic powers to try to point their face in a certain direction, like up, down, left, right, whatever.
Yeah.
And, like, you have to, with your own psychic powers, resist it. And the first person that actually moves their face loses. So this is where we get a sense of, like, how strong Hina is, because Anzu's been murking fucking Yakuza and biker gangs and, like, some Akira shit, just, like...
And he's getting praised at work because of Hina.
Yeah. So, Hina, the dumbass that she is, keeps losing at rock, paper, scissors, and Anzu keeps trying to, like, point her face in a certain direction, and Hina's just like, are you done? Like, can I go yet? Like, this isn't doing anything to me. But the minute Hina tells, like, Anzu, point left, like, her whole fucking neck rotates. Yeah, you think she just broke her neck. You're just like, oh, fuck. Like, Hina just broke this girl's neck.
Bro, it's hilarious, because the first roll, Rochambeau, Hansu wins, and then Hansu's like, you're gonna turn up. And then you can see the energy. You can see the energy on Hina's face and her hair, her cheeks, her, like, eyelids are going up. Like, everything's trying to go up, but you see this force, but she's not fucking, like, she's not breaking.
Like, at all.
Yeah, she's not budging at all, so she just has this dumbass, like, One Punch Man face on her. Like, and it's just hilarious, because she loses again. Hina loses again, and she tries it again, but to the other side, and this is where I'm going with the dumbass animation on faces, because they put in the work to make it, to not just turn up, but turn left. And they just animate that, and it just looks like you're sticking your head out of a, like, airplane.
Yeah. Like if Superman was, like, carrying you, and like all your face is just flying everywhere.
Yeah.
Like if you're standing in the middle of a hurricane or some shit. And yeah, it's just so stupid funny. Like,
so the first time Hina wins, like you said, like, yeah, she's like, oh, you're gonna turn left, and then she fucking falls. She's like, oh shit, my neck is broken.
Like, she's literally grabbing her neck on the floor, but like, oh my god, you just broke my neck. What the fuck am I gonna do?
And the whole Terminator premise that I had in mind, that got diffused right there.
But they did that on purpose, you know? That's what's so annoying about it. It's so annoyingly funny how this is. Because it's like, that's so stupid.
Like, Hansu gets humbled the fuck out. She's like, oh fuck, well, I can't take this girl.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna tell everybody she died.
Yeah, I'm just not gonna report back to base ever again.
She rips some of her hair. She's like, yeah, probably if I show them this. And then it's hilarious because Hansu just got her fucking neck broken and she's fucking crying. And then Hansu gets up. She's like, give me some of your hair, and rips some of her hair. And fucking Hina now She's like, oh, my head.
She wasn't hurt by all the psychic powers, but she got a couple of hairs ripped out.
Yeah.
Oh, God, this shit's so stupid. But this is where we gets fucked up with Hanzu. I'm going out of order, like, how the episodes are listed, and I'm sorry, but, like, this is how I remember it. It's like, the entire Anzu narrative is, like, she's homeless.
Yeah, well, she's from another planet. She doesn't have a house. She doesn't have anything.
She didn't transport inside of a nice Yakuza's home like Hina did. So she lives on the street. Like, she's like stealing from grocery stores. She's stealing food. She's not paying for meals when she eats out. All this stupid shit.
She's been stealing from like a restaurant for a while already. Every time.
And like, so everyone's getting mad at her and she's about to get caught. And we don't even see her psychic powers for, like, the rest of this. And I don't even get it.
We forgot to mention, the way Nita finds Anzu is that he found out about the beaten-up biker club.
Oh, yeah.
And he sends a homeless guy, or he hired a homeless guy to be like, hey, if you see anything weird or anything like that, let me know. I'm looking for maybe a girl with this and that, blah, blah,
Which
blah.
is some super mob shit, you know what I mean? Just like, put the word out to the bums. Tell them to hit me up if they see the little blonde girl with the psychic powers, like...
Hey, the bums know, bro. The bums are gonna know
the
stuff.
bums know who they answer to.
And then, and that's how he finds Hanzu. So the same guy that sold her out, almost...
Oh, thank you for tying that together.
Because the homeless man, when he was selling her out, pretty much, he was like, oh man, I almost feel bad selling out a little girl to a Yakuza member, because he doesn't know, obviously, you know, and that's the rain. That's some weird rain over there, but yeah. So Hanzu finds that guy that she didn't know sold her out, and he's like, oh well, fuck, like come to my hobo town, to my shanty town. And yeah, he pretty much takes care of her.
She becomes permanently homeless for like 5 episodes.
She's part of a bum club.
Yeah, like she's literally like people that live inside of a park, inside of like steel scaffolding sheds.
Mm-hmm. But before, I can't remember the hobo's name, and I feel like he should be listed here, but he's not. But he before he takes her to the little bum town that he's part of, he's like, hey, you're having a hard time. You know what? I'm gonna make it up to you. In his head, he's like, I'm gonna make it up to you for selling you out. And so he shows her some tricks, you know. It's like, pick up your cans from the trash, from the recyclables. We can sell those cans. He's also like, check on vending machines on the coin slots.
Like, he's teaching her how to be a bum and how to make like 700 yen a day, which is like $7.
Which, bro, it reminds me so much about like growing up in Juarez, because like even though like I was out playing and stuff like that, like I knew my uncle like sold cans, so like if I found a can and I was close to home, I would just take it home and like keep doing my own thing, stuff like that. Also, like whenever she's like, because the homeless guy shows Hansu to like scrape under the vending machines for change or anything like that.
Yeah.
And it reminds me so much about how we used to find payphones back in Juarez. You get a card. You fill your card up and you use it on the payphone. And we used to, like, you know, do the same thing on payphones, looking on top and trying them. And I could just, like, go to a payphone and tell my mom, hey, mom, I'm over here playing with my friends over here, blah, blah, blah. And that would be the communication, because I didn't have a cell phone or anything like that. But it reminds me about that. It's so weird.
Aldo Mendez, are you telling me that you were Anzu?
Yeah. and a little bit of Hitomi too. I was a young bartender.
Oh no.
Yeah.
Okay, hold on. We gotta get to Hitomi. So she's living it. It's really sad because Nita learns more about Anzu's situation and what she's doing and how grateful she is and what a hard worker she is, and that makes him think of what a bum Hina is at home. And he says out loud, like, man, I wish Anzu and Hina would have just switched places. Like, shit would be so much better. She's the perfect
child or whatever.
Yeah, she's the perfect child. And you see her like scrounging like her good ramens, like cup ramen.
But before we get to ahead on Hanzu, when the homeless man is teaching her all these tricks to get like a couple of bucks to come by, when she gets all the money that she was able to get that day, he's like, okay, I'm gonna take you to the bum town.
Yasan.
Yasan?
Yeah.
That's the homeless guy?
Yeah.
Yasan, he was like, you should probably buy something for everybody over there. That's what we do over here. You know what I'm saying? And then when he introduces the kid, everybody in the bum town is like, yo, whoa, it's a fucking kid, bro. It's like, you don't want to bring too much attention to us, blah, blah. So they're kind of like a little pushy to accepting her in the little camp.
Yeah.
But then she brings sake for everybody. but in her head, like, they're still kind of like busting her chops, but she kind of doesn't understand that human interaction yet.
Yeah.
And she's like, motherfuckers, I just fucking buy you the sake, you guys are drinking the sake, and they're like, chill, bro, we're just fucking kidding around.
And she doesn't even realize that she didn't even have enough money. And it's like Yasan that put up the extra cash to help buy the sake. And it's like, it put me in like an ugly way of thinking when that concept was first brought up, because like, I feel like maybe my parents used to always be like, oh, homeless people just want money, they're just being lazy, and they're going to go buy alcohol or drugs with that, like, so I'm not going to give them money. But you see here, it's like, if I want to drink because my life fucking sucks, like, I want to drink because my life fucking sucks. You know what I mean? I'm not necessarily, like, dependent on...
I'm trying to make a hard day a little bit easier. You know?
Yeah, and that, I think they say that, like, exact language somewhere in this. Like, some of the homeless people do, because it's like, dude, life just fucking sucks for me, like...
Yeah.
And that's like what's cool about Anzu's whole life is that like she starts from the very bottom. Like Hina started from the very top. Like she has all the shit she needs for school. Anzu doesn't even go to school. This entire fucking anime, even when she gets like a new set of parents and she has like a new home and a new life and starts getting like some cash flow, I really thought that they were going to put her in school at a certain point.
No.
Never came up to anybody that this 12-year-old girl should be in school.
A little fun fact that I was reading about the anime. You know how they make Hanzu sing and she sucks at it?
Yeah.
I guess the gag or the joke there is that in the Japanese voice actor and the dub voice actor, the Japanese voice actor is a famous singer, and her singing bad is it's the joke of that. And then the dub person, it's also a YouTuber that got recognized for like her singing voice and stuff like that.
What?
So it's also a joke that she sings bad.
I would have never gotten that just watching the anime.
Yeah,
but I'm glad you looked that up, because it is a really super awkward scene.
It's
where,
one
like,
of those fun facts that you wouldn't know if you look into it.
I remember literally thinking in episode 2, like, this is the most awkward scene that they could have animated. Like, it's just her just singing to some bum super shittily.
Yeah.
And then I remember I watched it in the dub, and I was like, that was awful. Like, I need to watch that in the sub. So then I immediately go, like, from Funimation to Crunchyroll to look up the sub. And then I'm watching the sub, and I'm like, this is just garbage. Like, this is awful on purpose. And, like, I don't know what I'm missing here.
It was awful on purpose. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's, like, Anzu's whole thing. She's just broke and homeless at this point of life. And that's, like, it.
What I like about Hansu, though, is that she picked up
like, how the real world works. Like...
empathy really quick.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Hina never has empathy.
Yeah, like, Hina took her a while to catch up on that.
Like, it's like the last minute of the last episode that she learns empathy.
Yeah. But Hansu, I mean, her getting the opportunity to grow with fucking homeless people, or to be in the camp and be safe with homeless people. And not only that, she gets adopted, or she gets a job at the noodle store.
Yeah, which isn't until way later. But yeah. Like, absolutely, because that's what's so shitty and, like, funny at the same time about this anime, and is, like, until, like, episode, like, 7, whenever you see Anzu, she's just around being a bum and homeless and hunting for cans, which is, like, the most funny and sad thing at the same time. Like, this little girl just fucking just like, hey, dumbass, are you done with that can? Can I get that?
Oh, man. It almost reminds me of, like, what kind of life the gypsy girl from Akame ga Kill lived before she died in her hood.
Although,
I'm sorry, dude.
I don't know why you do this sometimes.
I have to bring this up.
You just try to make shit awful sometimes, and I don't know why.
I'm just saying, it makes sense.
But like, that's what's funny, because like, I feel like as far as screen time's concerned, like, besides Hina and Nita, Anzu's like the second most like the third most character you see on screen. Because like even from this point onward, like episode 4 is literally titled Disownment Rock and Roll Fever, which doesn't even feel like, it feels like a filler episode because there's so much like raw content in the Anzu episodes. We're back to Hina just being a shitty fucking girl. It doesn't even feel like it matters. It's just like I just went from like this tearjerker about like these terrible people living in the park to some dumbass kid who doesn't appreciate her rich Yakuza dad.
Yeah, and like right now when you mentioned that Nita was having that inner dialogue of like, fuck, like Anzu seems so put together. That should have been the fake daughter that I have. We see this like section, this part of the anime or one of the episodes with Anzu. That because most episodes are like split like into, it's mostly Hansu in some of the episodes, and then like a little story with Nita and Hina, Nita and Hina.
Yeah.
And we see that Nita is being cockblocked by Hina. Like, so Yakuza member, you know, he's cool. He goes to bars, he chills with hookers and stuff, and now he's hanging out with Hina, and then he's like, yo, it's like, what's up, girls? Like, he goes to his escorts, he's like, what's up, girls? It's like, I haven't heard from you in a while. They're like, oh, well, you're such an amazing dad, and you're cool, and, you know, we thought you were busy and stuff. He's like, whoa, I'm getting cockblocked by this girl, too?
And that's what sucks, too, because, like, he's always hitting up on the bartender, too. Like, this chick named Sakura. But it's not, like Naruto Sakura. Like, this bitch is a bartender, like ginormous tits, smokes cigarettes, like
a very prominent fucking cross on the hair on the chest.
Oh, which is super weird in Japan to see like a Christian out and about like that. And like she denies fucking Yakuza members dates. Like she's just a badass bitch just out here bartending.
And for like an episode and a half, like we see that Nita is she's neglecting Hina now. But at this point, it's like, you think about it, it's like, okay, well, she's not my daughter. She's a fucking alien. It's like, I can do whatever the fuck
she's a fucking alien.
I can do whatever the fuck I want. Like, you go. But at this point in the anime, it's, you feel the connection, daughter and father kind of connection, and now you see Nita just neglecting her and be like, yo, it's like, I'm gonna go out, stay here.
And that's what's worse when you hear the reactions of everybody else, like the bartenders, the bar patrons, the escorts at the clubs.
Like, what are you doing here? Don't you have a daughter?
Yeah, he's literally been telling everybody he's been taking care of a daughter this whole time, a 12, 13-year-old girl, and he's a Yakuza member, so everyone thinks he's like a fuck-ass dad that like barely discovered he has a daughter, and he's barely like acknowledging her and taking care of her. So they're like, dude, we're just giving you your space and letting you be a good dad because you've been a bum this whole fucking time.
I can't remember how many times I heard, being a bartender, of some guy already mid-lit at the bar and being like, yeah, bro, it's like, I just had my baby 2 weeks ago, blah, blah. And I'm like,
why are you here?
And it's like, why are you here, bro? Like, fuck.
Get out of here.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, I get it. You're partying, but dude, your baby was born like 2 weeks ago. Now that I'm a dad, I'm like, two weeks into my baby. It's just baby stuff. You know?
It's not even a baby. It's like a
something you can let die. Yeah.
But yeah, that's what's funny because it's everybody's reaction just be like, dude, like you should just take care of your daughter. But it's not until he hears it from the escorts. He's like, yo, baby, why haven't you been hitting me up? Why haven't you been texting my phone? Where are my dates, baby? And she's just like, what do you mean? You have a daughter. You have a whole ass kid.
When the hooker's telling you that you should be taking care of your baby, you know. That's a fucking...
Don't listen to them. Yeah, it's all right.
Yeah, man.
I get there people too, but it's gonna be all right. But like his reasoning for kicking her out of the apartment was she like trashed the apartment somehow.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that was just like the last straw from him. Like he needed an excuse right there.
Yeah.
And then it's just so he kicks her out, and he just like immediately feels guilty about it. And fuck, I can't even remember. So she's just like basically homeless and
for like an episode,
for like half an episode even, and just trying to live like Anzu, and she's just watching street performers and all this shit. And it's the only reason I'm bringing this up is like she sees a band and she's watching them play. And she makes them, like, levitate off the ground and shit while they're performing. And that, like, completely, like, changes their lives. Like, this band, they're like a Japanese boy band. Like, fucking J-pop. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like... To her, it's nothing. But to these guys, like, they dedicate the rest of their lives to, like, trying to be Kiss and, like, levitate off the ground and shit.
Yeah,
like,
because after that performance in the streets, they even get in trouble with the authorities because they're like, yo, you're bringing too much of a crowd. You need to have a permit for this and blah, blah, blah. But then Hina just fucks off. She's like, oh, I can't do this anymore. I'm going to go back and try to win Nita back or something like that.
Which is so stupid because at the exact same time, what we haven't even talked about is, like, the introduction of Hina's classmate Hitomi, where she's like a good girl, you know what I mean? She's like, she ends up working for the student council at one point. She's like the top of her class, and like just by visiting the bar with Hina and Nita, she gets like pressured into becoming a bartender at like 12, 13 years old.
Yeah.
Which is like the dumbest thing because she wants to be like a regular middle schooler.
Yeah. And it's funny because she reminds me of Kaguya.
What?
Kaguya?
I know who Kaguya
Love Story?
I know who Kaguya-sama is.
But
how does that remind you of her?
That kind of like a good student. Like, she's trying to be like straight-edge student, and she's worried about Hina because Hina
is just always asleep in class.
It's always asleep in class. Like, why is she always asleep in class? But then, so she goes and hang out with Hina and takes her to the bar where Nita might be. And we know that the bartender, Sakura, is not there yet. And then some drunk just shows up.
It was
like,
It was that was the lieutenant of the Yakuza. So it's Nita's boss. So it's just a fucking Yakuza bar. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Sabu is the henchman, the other Yakuza member, the one with the jacket, the track jacket, whatever.
Yeah, but.
And he shows up with the lieutenant, and then he's like, anybody can make me a drink? Fucking Sakura's not here. It's like, and she's like, I don't know. And Hina, being her, like her robotic self, she just, like, walks away from the situation. And
she's like, this is awkward. I leave now.
Yeah, and Hitomi's like, I don't know how to do this. Like, just get behind the bar. It's like, I'll tell you how to do this. And little 12-year-old girl is like, shaking shakers, dropping alcohol.
You use an ounce and a half of gin, and be sure to use only a splash of like.
It's like here's a daiquiri.
Only use a splash of simple syrup.
Another daiquiri.
But that's what's so hilarious because like the joke about Hitomi is she just can't say no.
Yeah,
she's just so nice. She gets all in these stupid situations because she just can't say no to anybody because it's like too awkward for her to say no.
It's a problem.
It's a whole problem. It's a whole problem that's never addressed.
Yeah.
Like, and it's brought up multiple times, and she says it out loud, where she's like, I just can't say no to anybody, it's a problem. But it never gets fixed, which is like a whole nother joke in and of itself.
And then later on, Sakura, who we think it's maybe like a decent person, she's like, oh shit, my bad, I'm late. And she sees Hitomi fucking serving drinks. The fucking lieutenant guy is like, don't worry, she's got it. She's fucking great. I fucking love this drink.
I just taught this bitch how to make a daiquiri and Jack on the Rocks.
Yeah. And she's like, oh, really? And then when Hitomi is like, okay, well, can you take care of the bar? Like, almost like a shift change kind of thing. It's like, can you take care of it? Like, she's like, no. Like, you're going to work here with me, or else I'm going to tell your school that you're working here.
She gets whole ass blackmailed into it because that becomes a narrative in the later episode where she's been bartending for a while and she's like, no, I'm done. Like, I'm quitting. Like, I'm gonna just be a regular middle school girl. Yeah. And like, so she walks up to Sakura and she's like, I'm quitting. And Sakura's like, but I have this photo of you behind the bar and you're in the uniform and you're bartending. And Hitomi is like, well, I just recorded you saying that and that you're gonna blackmail me. And so they fake delete their evidence at the same time. And Sakura's just like, well, I already uploaded that picture to my computer, so you're extra fucked now.
Yeah, dude. Like, God. Scummy Yakuza shit, I'm guessing. Like,
God, the greatest fucking shit.
And then later on, I mean, it's because we have to talk out of order in each character because kind of each character gets their own kind of
everybody gets like 5 minutes every episode.
And at one point, Hitomi, like, her teacher comes in with a vice principal. Like
but that's not even out of order, because that's like episode 4. That's the whole like premise of episode like 4 is like Hitomi, this 12-year-old, 13-year-old middle schooler, is bartending, and in comes her drunk ass principal and her homeroom teacher, but like the principal's. It's funny because honestly, no, like it reminded me of like how you pressure me to drink sometimes. Cause
how do I pressure you?
Hold on. I'm saying something to the audience.
Okay, that I'm pressuring you to drink. You brought this drink today.
So the principal is like trying to party, you know what I mean? He's trying to fucking rage like the 6-year-old man.
So the scene is before they get into the bar, like
right. They've already been drinking. They've already been bar hopping.
The vice principal is hanging on to the classroom teacher by his arm. He's like, nah, bro, we gotta keep going.
You're not gonna fucking go home now, are you, fucking pussy? And he's like, honestly, sir, I was thinking about it. And then the vice principal was just like, oh, that's weird, because I thought I was gonna recommend you for the new position. That's so fucking weird that you pussy out right now.
Bro, there's no positions here between nerds. I don't know how I pressure you to drink, bro.
I thought I'd be head nerd. You said I could be head nerd after you pressured me to drink.
I need to pay Seymour at some point. I don't know.
Zaid too.
But once they get into the classroom, there's this whole inner.
No, they go into the bar.
I mean the classroom, the bar. There's this whole hilarious inner dialogue in Hitomi's and the classroom professor because the classroom professor shows up. He's like, oh, the girl seems familiar.
She seems really, yeah, and everyone's calling her by like by her first name, because it's a bar, and that's why it's almost like weird that they're being formal and calling her by her first name. He's like, no, that's not her. Everyone would call her Hitomi. That's not her.
Yeah, they call her Mishima.
Yeah, Mishima. Yeah. And he's just like, no, I don't know any Mishimas. I just know Mishima Hiyori or whatever the fuck her name is.
As the teacher acknowledges her or sees her, she also sees him, and she's like, oh fuck, that's my classroom professor. What the fuck am I gonna do? So she's like in front of him with a bar in between them, and she's just like freaking out. She's like, oh, you kind of look like so blah, blah, blah. And then in his head, as he's trying to figure out that this girl, it's really her student, he psychs himself out. He's like, that can't be her, because if it's her,
I'm in trouble.
I'm in trouble because
the vice principal just promised me this new job position. Like, no, the principal tells him that, remember?
Oh yeah, the principal. Yeah.
The principal tells him that. He's like, yo, dude, I think this might be one of my classmates. And he's just like, that's fucking weird, because if this is one of your classmates, there's no way I could promote you ever. And he's just like, oh, never mind, that's not fucking her. That's not fucking her.
And then she acknowledges that he doesn't want to recognize her, and she's like, yeah,
they're just living this lie for like forever.
Yeah, which it's weird at some point in this anime, because the classmates start thinking that she's having an affair with a teacher.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Dude, oh my god, I hate this anime so much. I hate it so much because it's so stupid, but like everything we know about Japanese culture would lead to that. You know what I mean?
And not just that, I mean, you hear, dude, I heard about a teacher that I had in high school that he got caught with this long relation with a 17-year-old in high school, bro.
I feel like it was like an open secret about like some of the people at Malwood High School, well, some of the male teachers, that like they were hitting up girls and texting girls after hours, and that like I heard multiple stories about like people or teachers adding girls like after they graduated on Facebook and hitting them up for shit like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is like, that's so like, maybe what women say about us is true, because maybe men are shit, because that's such creepy, weird fucking mentality. Just like, you're watching this girl in class every day, and you're just like, 9 more months, and I can add her on Facebook, and I can hit her up, and like hit her up for, oh my god.
It's weird to think about that. The teachers we had in high school, they were hungover most of the time, or like they were doing weird shit, like we do weird shit.
I don't do weird shit. I don't know about you, Aldo Mendez, but if you're doing weird shit, I think that's on you, and you should see a therapist about it.
Yeah.
But that's just how I think you should help yourself. Aldo
Okay,
Mendez.
thank you. Yeah, I'll get someone. I'll pressure someone to give me therapy.
talking about?
He told me and the teacher, but yeah. So we have this whole bar
culture
like, epilogue.
Yeah, that's what's like more hilarious. What we were talking about at the beginning, how it feels like a real bar. Like there's all this like real shit under the surface, but everyone's just trying to like enjoy themselves and have a good time. That you're just not going to bring it up and be weird.
Yeah,
which is just so funny. Like saying it out loud, like it's just so stupidly hilarious.
And I don't know if our listeners have caught on by now that our original premise to the story, it's completely like diluted now.
Yeah. What the fuck is this anime even about? Yeah, exactly. The main premise is that there's a mega psychic woman inside of a Yakuza's apartment, and now it's turned into a 12-year-old normal 13-year-old girl, like bartending and trying to keep that secret away from her mom and her principal.
So we haven't mentioned this, but I'm glad I remembered. So I looked up what Hinamatsuri means, and it's a Japanese holiday like a girl's day.
Yeah.
And it makes sense knowing that, because now you're seeing this anime revolves around stories with girls in them.
Yeah, it's like a celebration of girls.
Yeah.
It's like a celebration of girls, like, not becoming women. That sounds like too deranged, but like,
no, they're
really
not
becoming themselves. You know what I mean?
Just living, going through shit.
It's a coming of age story, but that like humanizes girls. That's not like an object for a narrative. You know what I mean?
And that's why I want to bring up the seisen and shonen comparison, because don't get me wrong, I love a shonen. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But
big explosion go boom is nice.
Big explosion go boom, bro. But seeing a seisen, I think that's how you pronounce it. It hits more close to home with the humor, with the situations and stuff like that. Like I'm not watching some fucking kid trying to turn his demon sister into a human. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah.
it just feels normal. It feels nice to see this, and I appreciated that after I saw the meaning of Hinamatsuri.
Yeah.
You know, because now I don't care about the premise. You know what I'm saying? About the premise of this Yakuza guy being a stepfather to this alien girl.
No, I hear you. And, like, that is what makes it relatable. And that's also what sucks at that same time, though. Because, like, Hinamatsuri as an anime could never be, like, the most popular anime of a season. Mm-hmm. It could never be a cultural phenomenon because, like, it's not what we're used to. It's not the marketable demographic. Even though, like, I feel like a lot of anime viewers, like, it's people that grew up with this shit. You know what I mean? We're all fucking old. It's like how Yu-Gi-Oh was originally invented as a way for 13-year-olds to, like, air quotes, battle each other on a playground. And it's turned into people that are almost 30 spending thousands of dollars on cards to, like, beat up on each other with. Same with Magic the Gathering. Same with Pokemon and, like, all the, like, nostalgia baiting, inflated stuff that's happened the past year. Like, there's no way Heart Gold and Soul Silver, the Pokemon game, should be worth like $250 a piece. You know what I mean? Like, this generation, like my generation, your generation, like we're the exact same age. Like,
your generation.
Your generation. So I think it's crazy that we're really starting to see the results of like people that were born in like the late 80s and the 90s, where our childhoods were heavily monetized and heavily, like, we were indoctrinated to be consumerists from the media at a very young age. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, as long as I've been alive, it's always been like Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and Digimon and Metabots and Beyblades and like just all this shit that we were almost like, we're children. Like, it's so easy to manipulate the endorphin producing parts of our brain and addicting us to this nostalgia baiting stuff to the point that now that we're all almost 30, it's like we're being bullied to be consumerists all over again, because like, it's like, I remember that I liked that as a kid and it made me feel good. So now I'm going to spend all this money to feel that same way.
Well, I think it's genius how not only is Nintendo a gaming console, they made their own lore.
Yeah.
Within their gaming console. That's why we love Mario. That's why we love Donkey Kong. That's why we love, like, everything about Nintendo. And that's why Nintendo, till today, they fucking trigger you with a shitty Zelda game.
They're the only gaming company, not counting PCs, like gaming consoles, that makes money on their console on every sale.
A nostalgia.
No, it's not even that. I'm saying, like, if I were to buy it, so I have a PS5. Yes. I buy the PS5.
Oh, you have a PS5?
No, Sony.
Oh, you have a PS5?
Sony takes a neg on every PS5 sale. It takes more for them to sell and produce and advertise a console than they make on each console. But they're like, it doesn't matter because I'm going to make that money back on game sales and like aftermarket purchases and headsets and extra controllers and shit like that. Mm-hmm. Nintendo makes a profit off every console sale, and they've been the only company to do that on every console for the past 20 fucking years. It's a
new world, bro.
And it's because they have that, like, that memory, that lore, that nostalgia baiting from producing the same game every year since the fucking 80s.
Yeah, because the only PlayStation game I can think of that have like most lore for me at least is like Final Fantasies, and Metal Gears. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? But look at fucking Nintendo, Zelda, Pokemon, Mario's,
and Mario in and of itself encompasses like every fucking Mario franchise. So it's Mario Party, Mario Golf, Mario, the racing one, the Mario Kart. It's all of them, and it's just, why are we talking about this? We're talking about Hinamatsuri. I don't remember.
We were talking about, I forgot.
I don't remember how the fuck we got into this. But anyways, so episode 5 is named 3 Heads Are Better Than One. And we're back to Anzu being a whole ass bum and just being broke and like feeling bad about shit. And Hina not even realizing how good she's got it. Mm-hmm. Because Anzu sees like an advertisement or a poster or something that's like, turn in your old TVs, get cash, blah, 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 blah. And she tries turning into like those old like tube TVs. Uh-huh. And the guy that she was trying to sell the TVs to is just like, what are you doing with these useless pieces of junk? Like, no, I need flat screens. Like, I need like actual LED TVs.
That was in the trash for a reason.
Yeah, that was just sitting on the street under the bridge for a reason. And it takes Hina being like, oh, I want to help. I'll go ask Nita for some money to go buy a brand new TV so that I can take an Uber or a taxi to where we're trading into the TV to get the cash to give to Anzu.
Yeah.
Which is just like such a convoluted process when we've seen previously that Nita tries to give Anzu just handfuls of cash. And it's just like, here, like, please take care of yourself. Like, you're Hina's friend, and I'd be really upset if like anything happened to you.
Correct, yeah.
And it's just so convoluted and stupid that the way these girls like do that is by losing money on this whole transaction.
And it's trying to show the foil of it because Hansu works for her TV when Hina is just almost easy grabbing that TV. You get me?
Yeah, yeah.
And it's just trying to show you the foil between these two characters, which, again, is not really important with the anime, but it's just showing you that Hina has it easier than Anzu.
No, yeah, and
Hansu's learning. Like, Hansu is being very empathetic, like, throughout her whole, like, journey in this anime.
Yeah, and she, like, when Anzu eventually becomes friends with Hitomi, like, it's almost sad because, like, Hitomi ends up helping not Anzu by showing her where she can, like, talk to the servers or the bartenders, whatever, and know when they're gonna offload all their cans. And she can pick up all the cans or all the bottles or whatever and sell them and, like, save, like, hours on her day instead of just walking around town and trying to get bottles and cans. Mm-hmm. And that is Anzu's like only friend her own age at this point is Hitomi. And Anzu takes Hitomi back to her little homeless shed and serves her the good ramen, the air quotes good ramen, the stuff with extra seasoning in it. And it's just so sad because it's like, oh, that ramen you're eating costs a whole 300 yen, which is like the equivalent of like $3. And like, I hope you really enjoy it. It took me a whole day to save up to buy that one thing of ramen, and you're just like, oh, fuck.
And Hitomi is like, oh, you know, like, thank you. Right? Hitomi, right?
Yeah.
Hitomi is like, oh, like, thank you. You know, like, but she's being not like she's being humble. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because as an audience, we're privy to like all her inner dialogue, which is just like, yo, this shit's cheap. Yo, why the fuck am I in a homeless shed? Like,
yeah, but she's trying to be nice to to the friend and living in Juarez, growing up in Juarez. I mean, I had some friends, like some childhood friends that I knew that didn't have what sometimes I had. You know what I'm saying, or stuff like that. And it's important to take notice of that. And I think we talked about it, or I talked about it in this podcast before. That's a reason, like in Juarez, they make her wear uniforms so you can't tell the class difference.
I've heard that, but in the argument against capitalism, and not to sound like a fucking communist or some shit, but like I have heard that because it's like by giving everybody a uniform appearance and like a lack of like social standing, you can have everybody be equally as obedient, like when it comes to like the system and like obeying the almighty dollar. But anyways, I don't even know what the fuck we're talking about. Anzu's super sad and homeless.
Yeah, and Hitomi is being humble about the offerings that Anzu is giving her.
Yeah, and that's like the end of that episode. That's like the end of episode 5. Like, there's no resolution. Like, Hina still barely understands like how good she's got it with Nita.
And I think at some point, like, Anzu wants to make it up to Hitomi, and she tells us like, look how much money I got, and she's like, I got 5,000 gens, which is, I don't know, $5. She had a good amount that she had.
It was 500. It was a
little bit more.
It was $5,000. It was 5,000 yen. She's carrying five $1,000 yen bills, which is $50.
Okay, yeah, and she's like, look at this, and then Hitomi's like, what? Like, she's like, are those bills cool? Like, she's trying to figure out what the bills are. God. And then she's like, well, this is a lot of money. And then she's like, oh shit, yeah.
Because they even say it at a certain point that, like, it's crazy how much money Hitomi's even making as a bartender. Because Sakura will be like, you're making like 10,500 yen a night. Like, what do you, when I was that age, I could never have expected that. Which, like, is only like $150. So I thought it was going to be more.
I mean, you saw the size of the bar.
$150?
With Yakuza members, you're right. They should be tipping more.
That's what I'm saying. I was
then, I did think about this, but then I thought about like, wait, then Japan doesn't do the whole tipping thing?
They don't do tipping. Yeah, they're making it like...
Yeah, they're getting paid that. It's not over tips.
So, that's her rate of pay. Yeah. Like, that's not... Which I was still like...
I mean, day?
That's a fucking ripoff for a middle schooler?
It's child labor.
Yeah, I guess she's supposed to be cheap. But yeah, that shit fucking sucks. And, what was I even trying to get across?
So, Hansu wants to spend that money to have fun.
No, that's later. That's later. That's way later. We haven't even explained her second family yet.
Oh, you're right.
What I'm trying to describe is episode 6. Nita-san has a dandy daddy. And this is where, like, we start getting Nita's backstory. Because, like, we've been talking about Anzu a fuck ton because she's just part of the narrative half of the time. But, like, in this episode, what ends up happening is... it's like the anniversary of like Nita's dad's death or like his dad's birthday or something. So he has to go back to like his childhood home, like where his mom and his sister live. And he's going to go like pay respects to the altar, like that fucking death altar in, what's that Pixar movie about Mexicans?
Coco?
Yeah, in Coco. What's that called?
What do you mean? Dia de los Muertos?
No, they have an altar there for the grandma.
An offering? Like...
The ofrenda.
The ofrenda, yeah.
Yeah. So, like, Nita has to go pay respects to his dad's ofrenda. Mm-hmm. And this is where he's really fucking nervous because he's been living with Hina this whole time. And his family's finally going to learn about his daughter, who's not his daughter, who's actually an alien from outer space. And he's really fucking worried. So he's told Hina this whole backstory and like this whole narrative about herself and the character she's supposed to be portraying. But again, Hina's slow. So all she can repeat back is like strictly what Nita told her to say.
which comes with, and now you need to say this, or well, Nita said to say this, and all the dialogue that he said. Yeah.
Right. And, like, what's hilarious is that, like, his family's kind of a bunch of drunks. Nita's family, because, like, as soon as they get there,
they're already chilling.
They're already chilling. They're already sipping on bottles. You know what I mean? Like, the big fucking... It's not liquor bottles, but they look like old-timey looking...
Canteens kind of thing?
Yeah. Like a 2-liter fucking homebrewed beer or something.
Yeah.
And it's super foamy like a beer. I don't know what the alcohol is. I'm just trying to describe it. But... so Nita is spending all this time trying to describe, like, like this fake ass backstory, like, Hina, her dad was a Yakuza member, which is why I know her and why I'm taking care of her. And her dad and her mom were shot in a restaurant at the same time. So she was eating ice cream or like salmon or something. And so she's blacked out in her mind, like her parents dying and where she came from, and she has no recollection of any of her past life, and that's why I'm taking care of her. So in that little bit of story, that brief fucking narrative, we start to see like 6 fucking bottles in front of the mom and the sister. So they've just been fucking chugging. They've just been like throwing these beers back the entire time he's been talking. And so you see the sister crying like, oh my god, you're the greatest fucking brother ever. You're such a nice fucking guy.
I can't believe he was that good. Blah, blah, blah. He was always a douche in high school.
He was the worst fucking brother ever.
They're shitting on him as they're appreciating what he's doing for Hina, which he really isn't. But
he's doing none of that.
Yeah, so he's like... Yeah, they start shading on him, and there was a joke in there that they called Nita dangerous. He's like, he's not dangerous. He's a fucking dumbass. Blah blah blah. It's great. It's great. The whole scene is crazy.
Yeah, because like by the end of the episode, he just spills it out. He's just like, well, the mom suspected this alternate explanation this whole time, but like she just didn't want to question him too much. But by the end of it, like Hina, because she can't improvise, just kind of spills it like, Nita's not really my dad. Like he's just a person taking care of me. He found me because like she's trying to do her homework in the house, and she's signing it Hina Nita, because when they registered her for class, Nita just gave her his last name because it'd be less fucking questions asked, right?
Yeah, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing.
It's weird that nobody checks with like the government.
I don't know, because we see a lot of animes where people just change their names and they go by something else.
Yeah, it's super weird. I don't know like how accurate that is, and it makes me want to look that up, because it's like, if we as like Americans, like with our social security number and like our last name and like how closely like we're monitored even like school settings, it's weird that somebody in Japan could get away with something like this.
Well, I guess because we're more like, the US has more control of people that at a point we're just like, you know, a fucking we're a fucking factory of how do you call it? Capitalism. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to make workers and shit like that. So everybody has to have that shit in order for the government to get taxes or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So maybe in Japan, you know, countryside, stuff like that. I mean, if you don't have any ties to the government like that, in a way that you have a job or something like that, if you're a farmer, maybe.
Lucky.
You know? But like, and I just remember when I was playing the Ghost of Tsushima, there's a piece of dialogue. There's like, your parents died and stuff like that. I'm a high samurai guy, so we'll just give you my last name and nobody's gonna ask any questions.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Super weird, but
we keep going on tangents, good tangents.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember where I keep getting when we get out of the tangent. So it's significant because the sister and the mom see the homework and it's signed Nita, and they're like, "What the fuck? What is your last name, Nita? I thought your last name was some other made up shit that you've been telling us this whole time." And that's where like Nita has to make up like this whole other like backstory, and it's one of those things where it's just like lies on lies on lies to the point that you can't keep them all together. And so by the end of the night, Like, everyone's been drinking, everyone's a little fucked up, to include Nita, his mom, his sister, and, like, somehow either Nita or Hina kind of slip up that, like, her parents really weren't shot down, and they just kind of go along with the mom's alternate narrative that Hina is actually, like, the bastard child of Nita that he never acknowledged until, like, last year.
Mm-hmm. And they give him shit for it again.
Which is, again, a lie, because she's just fucking alien girl that just popped out of fucking outer space. But he goes with it again, and that's where, like, it's super dorky and cheap and, like, annoying, but, like, it's cool that, like, this is where they have, like, formal ties together almost. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, she's been showing him up with the mob office, but, like, his family now has to acknowledge, like, this is my granddaughter, this is my niece, this is my... Like, Hina is Nita's daughter, like, from here on out.
Yeah, like, now she has connections to, like, everything. And you see that developing as the anime is going on. Like you said, she's going to the office with him. You know, like, he's buying her stuff.
She's his shadow. And, like, you even hear, like, the mob, like, bitching at him and certain point. Like, why you always bring your fucking daughter, bro? Like, this is fucking weird. And they don't even realize that, like, she is the only reason he's comfortable in the position he's in.
Yeah.
Which is,
at some point, they have this whole, like, promotion fucking thing, don't they?
Yeah. Hold on, we're not there yet. Okay. So you're right. So, episode 7, Anzu is a greeter now. We get this whole ass, sad ass sob story about how, like, there's a protest because the homeless people that Anzu lives with are gonna get kicked out of the park. And Anzu goes back to the park at the little homeless shed, and she's just like, hey guys, I was just in town, and there's all these people with picket signs, and they're saying not to kick out the homeless people. Do you see any homeless people in the park? Like, what are we going to do about these poor homeless people? And they're just like, Anzu, listen, we're those poor homeless people.
Dude, it is crazy. It is crazy. It is how the sister in Grave of the Fireflies did not have any idea on the situation that they were in.
You haven't brought up Grave of the Fireflies in a while.
Until it was too late. Because in her scenes in Grave of the Fireflies, she's having fun time by the lake. She's catching fireflies.
She's eating all those rocks thinking it's candy.
She's fucking having a great time,
Those rocks are delicious, bro.
And she doesn't find out until she's eating fucking rocks.
I don't even think... In Grave of the Fireflies canon that she ever realized it was rocks.
No, she never realized it were rocks.
What are we talking about?
Like Hansu never realized she was a homeless person.
So Hansu's a homeless person. She's getting kicked out of the park, right? And all the homeless dudes are just like, dude, like, we didn't want to tell you, but, like, we all got to figure out what the fuck we're going to do because we're going to be kicked out. And it's just this whole long, drawn-out thing that eventually ends up with Sakura from the bar, like, kind of, like, inheriting custody of Anzu, because all the homeless guys, because they're just weird drifters, they can never fully, like, claim custody of her. Like,
yeah, it's weird.
They're not even comfortable, like, being responsible for her, which is, like, really mature of them.
No, yeah, because it's weird. It's, yeah.
They're just like, no, we can't give her what she wants. Like, she's literally a child. Like, what the fuck are we gonna do?
It's like the Globetrotters taking some random child for, like, a tour.
Exactly. So... Sakura ends up dropping Anzu off with this old couple that owns, like, a ramen shop. And the thing about them is, like, it's... I can't think of what movie I'm thinking of, but I've seen, like, Hollywood-produced movies before that are about, like, old people that end up adopting late in life because they could never conceive, but, like, they treat that child like their own, and it's, like, this whole fucking thing. Mm-hmm. And it's, like, the same kind of feeling I get right here. Like, it's an old couple, it's kind of weird that they don't have any children, they own a business together, and they end up, like, making Anzu being a server at the restaurant that they run.
Mm-hmm. And when they do accept her in, they try to, like... They give her the rundown. He's like, hey, well, you're gonna be working with us. And they're good-hearted because, like, the dialogue is very like, hey, like, it's okay, feel comfortable here. You're gonna be working though, but we need to teach you some things. Like, they're not trying to be fucking like Cinderella stepsisters kind of fucking deal here. Yeah, they're not trying to put this kid to, like, slave labor or anything. And they make Anzu shadow the mom as she's hosting and serving customers. So in comparison to the bar, the dialogue in the ramen restaurant is very formal. Like Hansu learns how to speak to customers by like, hey, how's it going? What can I get you today? Blah, blah.
Hello, kind sir. What kind of ramen can I serve you today?
Oh yes.
Sir, that is a great choice. I will be right back with your order.
And she starts getting the rundown. And she lives with them on the restaurant, which is, I think, is really cool that you get to live where you have your business at.
Fuck that, bro. I don't want people to know where the fuck business. I work. Nah, I don't want people I work with know where the fuck I live.
But I see that a lot in like foreign movies. That
I get what you mean. Like I'm being,
Bob's Burgers.
I'm being facetious.
You're being facetious. You wouldn't like your business, something that is dear to you.
It's good. What I'm thinking about is
it's like going to work like a regular job. No, I wouldn't want.
Before we started recording, I was trying to reference Master of None, was something completely unrelated. And the start of like season 3 of Master of None is he's in Italy at like a restaurant, and he lives with a family of the pasta restaurant that like he's learning to apprentice at, and it's like that. That's what that makes me remind me of. But I'm being facetious to the point that, like, in regular jobs or professions that you don't really care about, you would never want people to know where the fuck you live. But I do see your point, how advantageous it would be to be, like, just living where you work. And it's like...
And and I don't want to emphasize the work aspect of it, but, like, your business, Like, I record my podcast in my house.
I own this building. I live this building. I work in this building.
I get my money with the same rent money. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Like that. Yeah. Exactly like that. And which is like, fuck capitalism.
But anyways, this family is great. And she's living there. And she's getting, like, indulged with all this, like, generosity that her empathy is just starting to pour out, and she's trying to make some money, or she's trying to do the best for the people that are helping her out, because she's been a bum that she didn't realize that she was a bum. Yeah. So any easy path to food or shelter or anything like that, it's greatly appreciated. But then the family being so nice and knowing that she works super hard because she's been doing good with
because like they do recognize that she's like fucking 12.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I completely oversaw that. But yeah, they give her a paycheck. Maybe not a full paycheck, but they give her some money.
They give her like $50 for working like almost full time, because she's not going to school or anything like that. She gets free room and board. She like is busting her ass inside the shop, and they give her like 50,000 yen or 5,000 yen at the end of the week.
And when she receives it, she's like, why? What do you mean? It's like, I live here. I don't pay rent. It's like, I don't do anything. It's like, no, it's like, you've done so much.
You're out here busting your ass, like, for real.
Yeah. And that's when I brought up the point with Hitomi, where she calls Hitomi. He's like, hey, meet me at the park, blah, blah, blah. And she flashes her fucking $50. And Hitomi is like, cool, bro.
Because Hitomi's making like 4 times as much as that at the bar, which is like so sad. And that's what I'm saying when I said at the beginning, I hate how sad Anzu is, because like it's not even funny how sad her life is.
We were made to feel something, bro. Like I did not expect to be like, God damn it, like in the anime, but we got tricked into watching it because we haven't watched a slice of life in a while.
But see, I think I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think it's hilarious that you're even calling it a slice of life. It's like episode 1, you almost expect it to be like a fantasy or like a battle shonen, actiony, because it's like about psychics and shit. But like, you're right, we're talking about like episode fucking 8,
and it turns into Miss Kobayashi.
Yes, exactly. It's just so dumb everyday shit that you're just like,
and it turns into Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid, a Gretsuko at some point, when Hansu is just working her ass off.
I think it's funny that you're just naming like every adult marketed slice of life,
and that's what I've been saying.
That's exactly what this is. And yeah, it's so just fucking watch it. Like, honestly, like,
weirdly referable.
Before we started recording, I literally told you, damn, I don't know if I'm down to talk about this because I kind of didn't like it. But discussing it, and I've already talked about this like 3 times, but talking about it, discussing it just feels like such an experience. Like, it's just such like, if you're just like an angry millennial that just hates like how you're being exploited by like such and such agency and organization, and
you want to feel that more, just
you want to feel that more, watch Agretzko, watch this, watch Beastars. I don't watch BoJack Horseman. I don't know what to tell you.
BoJack is good. But anyways, what was I saying?
I don't even, but like what I wanted to start talking about was at a certain point we do start to learn more about the mysterious organization that Anzu and Hina are a part of. Because episode 8, and it's the same old Hina, is literally about this chick named Kie, and like how she's like transported to Tokyo. She's here to pick up Hina. She's here to pick up Anzu because they haven't heard back from either of them after they transported
the TVA
them.
Almost.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's the fucking TVA. And she's meant to like assess like how great of a risk Hina is to this city. And that's what makes it so fucking funny, because at a certain point she just bumps into Anzu being all homeless and like collecting cans. And she's like, Anzu, what the fuck are you doing here? No, she was at the restaurant. I'm sorry. She's working at the restaurant. She's like, Anzu, what the fuck are you doing? Like acting out here casual at a restaurant. And she's like, oh, what are you? I was homeless. And then,
but at first she tries to keep it formal. She's like, I'm trying to help you out, blah blah blah. And then like the 2 older couple that are taking care of Hanzo are like, well, when you know someone, you can be a little bit more personal. And then that's why she starts talking to her. And then, she's like, what the fuck are you doing here? It's like, where the fuck is Hina?
No, yeah, and so it's just Anzu just being like, oh, I probably know where Hina is at this time of day. So they go, and Hina's just acting like a regular fucking person. They're just, the Hina I know would have destroyed an entire city in the span of a couple hours, and this, and that. And she has like a whole ass questionnaire with her that she's given by this organization. And it's like 50 questions that are just like, is Hina a decent human being, and is she like fully adjusted? It's just the dumbest things. Like, the very first one they explain is, like, does Hina obey, like, laws and rules? And she sees Hina walking up to a crosswalk. And, like, how the crosswalk has, like, the go and, like, the stop and, like, whether or not you can actually cross it or not. And she's just like, oh, Hina's about to cross on red. And she's about to blow up everything if a car tries to hit her. And she just sees Hina with a broken leg, just waiting for the traffic signal to let her go. And, like, we barely get, like, a brief, like, Family Guy style cut away that explains where the broken leg came from. But Hina had done something well in school, and Nita picked her up and was just, like, flinging her and tossing her around the room. Yeah, like, you did it, Hina.
I think it was when she ran for student council president.
Oh, my God. I totally fucking forgot.
She gets bored from school. She's like, Nita, I don't want to go to school anymore. It's like, whoa, too fucking bad. You enrolled. Is like, we're trying to keep this as normal as possible. You gotta find out how to make it cool. So she's like, fuck it, I'm gonna run for president. But she's just like a weird kid. And everybody's giving her shit. It's like, why are you running for president? It's like, nobody knows you. You don't even talk to anybody.
She's not even old enough to run for class president. Because, like, because Japanese middle school is like how middle school used to be in El Paso, where, like, it's 3 years from ninth grade. Well, from like 7th to 9th grade, because 6th grade they're still considering elementary school. So it's like the 7th grade, 8th graders, 9th graders. Hina and Hiyori, or whatever the fuck her name is, are first years, which means they're 7th graders.
Yeah, so it's like in Mexico. So you go up to 6th grade, and then 6th grade it's considered like 7th grade, 8th grade, and 9th grade is considered high school, and then
middle school.
Middle school, and then preparatoria, which is high school. It's like the next 3 years, I believe.
Yeah, exactly. And so she's not even allowed as a 7th grader, as a first year, to run for class president. But like they just let the socially awkward girl do it anyways. And that's what's like so fucking funny about it, because like she walks up to Nita after that conversation the next day after she's decided to run for president. She's like, Nita, I want to run for president, but I'm not really entirely sure how to. But she does that at his office, which is the Yakuza headquarters. And they're just like, you know what, Nita? Why don't you give a shit about your daughter? You should just hire our speechwriter. And she can and he can get you to do all this. But she tries having a speech based off of the writings of the speechwriter for the Yakuza, but it's like so highbrow and so smart she can't even read it.
Yeah, it's like a script in a movie almost. Like in parentheses, you will have like act surprise and then say this.
Yeah.
So instead of her acting surprise, she just reads act surprise.
Raise your hand.
I'm gonna make better lunches. You know what I'm saying? Or something like that. So yeah, like the dialogue, she's actually reading it from the script.
Yeah.
You know, raise your eyebrows, or act surprised, act mad at this point. So she says all that.
It's just,
which lands her a vice president, I think, right?
She's a secretary. She's hired as a secretary for the student council because she's like the most popular first year. But again,
and that's why they celebrate and she breaks her leg.
Yeah, exactly. But fuck, it's because I want to go off on that narrative, exactly. But I want to go back to where we're talking about in episode 8. Yeah. But anyways, back in episode 8, so this Kie chick that's like trying to evaluate how sane Hina is and how well she's adapting. She's just walking around town with Anzu, watching her do normal people things and be like, Hina's a bad person. She's not about to do this, but she gets like a perfect score because it's like, take care of animals, and it's raining, and a puppy inside of a box on the side of the street is being rained on and whimpering, and Hina with her crutched ass leg walks out, steals somebody's umbrella, and Kie is just like, see, she steals shit from people. She's an awful person, but like post it up for the puppy so that it doesn't like freeze and die in the rain.
Yeah,
which is like heartwarming, and that's what leaves like Kie to like kind of abandon her post almost.
And then it brings up a lot more questions like, what is this organization doing? Are they fostering kids on different planets to see if they adjust correctly?
And they never explain it.
And they never explained it.
Oh god, I hate it.
So I'm trying to follow a fucking alien girl and a Yakuza member, but there just hasn't been any of that. Now I'm trying to follow this organization, and there's still none of that.
Yeah.
And it's just raises so many questions, and it answers questions that we didn't even think about.
And I'm sorry I keep getting distracted, but I did want to talk briefly about like how fucking fire the intro song is.
It is fucking fire.
It's so good. Like, I hate that the intro to Hinamatsuri is like such a typical J-pop anime intro, like almost like pretending to be Naruto, upbeat, uplifting, kind of introduce you to my world kind of opening song. But that's exactly what it is, and it's like the most fire thing I've heard in weeks. Like,
it's fucking good. Who is that?
I don't have no idea, but we watch anime every week. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like we're finally getting at the point where I talk about people in anime, I'm like, bro, like, just in the past year I've watched 50 something different anime. But when I'm telling you when I feel this certain way, that you should believe me. And that's how I feel about the intro to Hinamatsuri, because it's just like
it's
guitars and pianos and uplifting and just like panned over shots of the characters and just all these happy supporting characters, and just like, let me introduce, it's like, we need to watch it for the anime, but it reminds me of that time I got reincarnated as a slime, which is literally just about introducing you to its world and like how happy its characters are being there.
Mm-hmm. And he's a slime.
It's an amorphic slime. It's a how do I put it? It's it's a slime without gender. So using the word he would probably be inaccurate.
Okay. But where do we go from this? Where are we?
We are still in episode
Oh yeah, so Hina is considered a good person.
Yeah, we're still in episode 8, and it's the same old Hina. which is about like how she's being evaluated by this member, this and that. But so that's where it leads up to like our final act and what we think is going to be like a cohesive like narrative structure, because Hina does so well on her evaluation that she's an actual person, has empathy, and like is fully like integrated into society, that Kie is like, I actually have to take you back to the organization now. Like, you're too good of a person. Like, you did better than all of our expectations, and now I actually have to take you home. And it's like a goodbye between Hina and Nita.
Yeah.
Because Hina explains to Nita, like, yo, I came from this place that I can't even describe to you. And Nita, like, almost expected it, which is, like, annoying that they still don't go into it, because Nita's still like, I always knew she was an alien. I always knew she was a weird-ass bitch. And, like, I never knew where the fuck she came from, but I know it now.
Bro, I think we skipped the whole like part where the girl shows up, Mao shows up in the island. Did we?
No, that happens right about now.
Okay, cool.
I'm getting there. I'm staring straight at the episode listings for the wiki. Okay, let me get there. I'm sorry. So, Hina almost goes away with Kie, right? And the thing about Kie is that, like, with that red ball from episode 1, she's supposed to, like, make her capsule, and that's how she's going to take Hina out of there. Mm-hmm. Hina straight up lost her ball at a certain point, like, after the after-credit scene in episode 1, where Nita accidentally, like, encompassed himself and peed on himself. And Anzu, like, got her ball washed by Nita when she went to go visit Hina to play video games. Mm-hmm. So neither of them had their little red pill balls to get back to base. So it's up to this third chick. What was her name?
Mao,
to come deliver these transporting capsule balls. So to give both herself one and give one to Hina so that they can go both transport back to the home base.
Yeah, but like somehow her fucking transporting shit gets fucked up and she lands like on a weird island.
And they never explain it. That's exactly what I'm talking about. They never explain it, and I'm so fucking lost.
And then it just turns into like a Castaway episode where fucking this Mao is losing her fucking mind on the sun and heat and dehydration and lack of food, that she starts talking to like some coconuts, thinking they're Hina and Hanzu, and that's the like the joke part about it. But it turns like into Castaway. Like, I thought it was gonna turn into Terminator. Like, I thought it was gonna turn into like a kung fu movie,
which is fine, because it's like a lot of times we watch things and it feels like I'm not getting the hints or the references that feel like old 80s or old Japanese references. But like, it's clear that the author of this was a huge fan of like American media from the 80s, because you're right, it exactly feels like the Terminator, it exactly feels like Castaway.
Yeah,
which
it's fun.
It's so dope, because you're like, it's a Castaway episode, and it's like the episode's trying to tell you, this is the Castaway episode, please enjoy this. Like,
and we've been fucking brainwashed into expecting a beach episode, a sport tournament episode, you know what I'm saying? And you look for that in anime, but the way this anime is being told, it's by a fan of Hollywood 80s movies and Hollywood cinema.
Yeah.
Because it's telling you, oh, this is a Terminator episode. This is a...
And it's so dope, because you're right, because it's just like this chick Mao, like, she immediately drops the 2 red balls that are going to transport them back into the ocean and straight up loses them, which defeats the whole purpose of her being there.
So now she can't transport anywhere, so she stays on the island.
Yeah, exactly. And she's in this random fucking island in the middle of the Pacific fucking Ocean, and she's just talking to coconuts and like trying to get the fuck out of there. I don't even remember how she gets off of the island.
She builds something. She builds a raft.
She builds like a big fucking raft, and like she's trying to do SOS signs, and she's talking to coconuts, and like she makes it to the mainland, but it's China.
Yeah,
like she's not even in Japan, which is in and of itself, it feels like an Anzu situation, because it's like, it's so stupid. Like, it's so like,
it's great. I think it's awesome, because I mean, she's not gonna know where to go. But I thought it was awesome because, again, it's tricking you. Like, this anime is tricking you to trying to follow some narrative, but those narratives don't matter. Mm-hmm. You know, and you think, oh shit, she's stuck in China, when you thought she was gonna go find, you know, Hano and shit, and she gets stuck there. And this 13 episodes, 12 episodes,
12 episodes.
It's a time span of like 4 years, right?
A couple years.
Is it a couple of years?
Yeah. Because like everyone's the same age though.
Oh, okay.
So maybe like a year, not even a couple years.
I thought I heard a piece of dialogue where it's like, man, it's been 3 years.
Oh, you're right. Between like episode 11 and episode 12 is like 4 years or something.
Yeah.
Oh, you're right. Mm-hmm. But you're right. It's like 3 months being encompassed between episodes 1 and 11. And then all of a sudden between 11 and 12, it's like 4 fucking years.
Yeah.
And so on this Chinese island or the Chinese mainland, they just leave it right there. And it doesn't even matter because the scene with Mao is the very first scene that's shown in episode 1 of the anime, where it's like Mao doing kung fu and being like, oh, I gotta get to Hina. This is such an issue. And then we didn't even know who this bitch was until like 9 episodes later. Like, if you were watching this weekly, you would be so fucking pissed because you were like, I saw none of this. Like, I have no idea who any of these characters are.
And again, it's putting that Terminator essence on it with Mao now, but nothing happens again.
Yeah.
And then what episode are we? 10?
Yeah, about 10 or so.
10 on 10. I mean, Hina leaves Nita and she goes with this couple of boys to like a mountain.
No, not yet. Episode 10 is about how Hitomi, where her mom figures out that she's been bartending. Because, so you're right, we've had like 2 or 3 episodes just about Hitomi and her secret bartending job and how she's really a middle schooler, but like she's working at such a high class Yakuza bar that like the patrons there are like people in big companies, people in big like law firms and like accounting firms. Yeah, you know, those real connections, and they're always trying to hit her up for a job. Just be like, yo, Hitomi, come work for my badass company, just drop out of school and like do this and that. She just wants to be a regular middle schooler, and because we're seeing certain scenes where Hina, because she became the secretary of the student council, she never shows up because she had no interest in actually participating in student council affairs. But that Hitomi, to be such a nice person, shows up on her in her place. Yeah. And the president of the student council will be like, you know what? You're going to show up every day now. And Hitomi just not being able to say no is just suckered into that job.
And again, we didn't talk about the whole like Hitomi and the teacher. Well, we did talk about it, that they were having an affair and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that same thought that those kids had, the mom questions Hitomi about it. She's like, what are you doing so late at night? Where are you? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, are you doing lewd stuff? And that was a little LOL thing for me. I was like, ha. But like, she's so petrified of the stuff that she's been doing without her wanting to do it. She's like, fuck. And I think it was like her birthday or something like that.
Yeah.
And she's at the bar, and like somebody mentions that it's her birthday, and all the patrons are like, oh shit, it's Hitomi's birthday. Again, these patrons are not your regular El Paso bar guy that just...
Yeah, like these are real people. Like these are owners of companies, of like multi-million-dollar companies, and like the HR director of like this billion-dollar industry.
And they appreciate Hitomi's hard work. She's 12, she does good drinks, she's formal and stuff like that, so they see her potential. And they're like, fuck it, let's throw a party, blah, blah. And then Hitomi's head is like, yeah, I'm going to throw a party, and my mom's going to see all this, and I'm just going to have to quit, or some shit like that.
Yeah, my mom's going to be so mad that I'm such a successful bartender, and that I'm not being attentive in middle school, and that I'm going to be kicked out. But what sucks is that even Sakura in this position, like, tricks her into a lease. Because
that's right.
She gets kicked out of her mom's house for showing up late, like what you're saying, and the mom thinks she's doing lewd stuff. So she gets kicked out of the house, and then Sakura approaches Nita and is like, yo, please give Hitori like a place to stay, like she's homeless now, Hitomi. And that happens, but Nita gets her a discount for a place that would have been $3,000 a month. It said $1,500 a month. But still, that's a lot of fucking money for a middle schooler, right?
Yeah.
So then she has to pick up subsequent jobs from all the different people that visit her at the bar. So she's like working in offices, she's working cleaning windows, she's still at the bar. And you're right, the mom she invites the mom to be like, please tell these people, tell these grown-ass men that I do not need to be working, I need to be in middle school. And right away, the mom's so humble, or like she's from like humble positions that like the HR manager of like a really important firm like approaches the mom and is like, yo, your daughter's the greatest ever, say the word right now, I'll hire her tomorrow. And like,
if it's okay with you, like everybody's being like professional and shit. And as the mom is receiving all these like business cards and stuff like that. By the way, fun fact, when you receive like money or a business card, you receive it with 2 hands in Japan. It's weird, huh?
Why?
I don't know. It's just what you have to do to be respectful, I guess. But anyways, as that's happening, Hitomi, like by the side of her eye, she's looking at this and she's having that inner dialogue, like, oh, please, like, tell these fucking people that I don't need to be there. But then she continues to be like, oh, thank you very much, everybody. And then she goes to Hitomi, her daughter. She's like, hey, I'm sorry for what I said before. It seems like you have your act together. You have your own place. You're making your own money. And not only that, your job is not what I thought it was. You're actually making connections with a lot of
She thought her daughter had like a sugar daddy or was doing porn or some shit. Like, and that's what we mean at the beginning when we were talking about, like, we were scared when it was about 12, 13-year-old girls because it's like, Japan's weird sometimes, bro. Like,
and I'm glad it wasn't this time.
Yeah. Shout out to Japan.
Shout out to Japan. Order studio film.
Studio feel.
Oh,
feel. Like my feelings.
Feel.
Because this makes me feel something. Because it's about
I felt
adult...
something.
Okay, and then?
Episode 11, the documentary.
Yeah. The video journalist visits Nita.
It's a subplot. Like, we never met this journalist.
It's the second to the last episode of the anime. It's all about a subplot, which is like so like annoying, but on theme for this anime. Like,
definitely, absolutely, because this guy, he's getting shed on at work, just like Nita was getting shed on by the Yakuza by not doing anything. He's like, don't worry about it. He's like, I heard about this guy. He's a Yakuza member. I'm gonna try to get an interview with him and have a piece on him.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And like we said from the beginning of this point, you think a Yakuza member is gonna be this fucking bloodlusty fucking guy trying to cut fingers left and right. But as the day goes by with this journalist, Nita is taking care of Hina with her broken leg, and he's like, "So what did you do yesterday night?" It was a Friday night or something like that. He's like, "Oh well, I took care of Hina. I was at the hospital all day." Blah blah blah. He's like, "Damn it!" Like he's just trying to fish for like dirty shit.
Yeah. And it's just as stupid as fucking shit because it's like. So they go to the Yakuza office with the guy, which I don't know what fucking like gang members would be like, yeah, just come through this organization that we have, and they're just they're just watching him interact with people. He's just a normal guy. He gets chewed out by his boss. He's super polite to his subordinates. He's just sitting in front of his computer inputting data. And they're like, you're a badass Yakuza. How do you get that scar over your eye? And he's just like, this one asshole gang member one time just was drunk and just like hit me over the face with an ashtray.
My boss at the time, he was like, my boss at the time when I recently started, I forgot to light up his cigarette and he just bashed me in the head with an ashtray, which is a fucking hard fucking thing to do.
That's fucking awful.
You know?
So they're like, yeah, just recreate that same thing with this other nice guy, which is just this random dumbass nice guy in a tracksuit that you've mentioned like previously, but he's more down for it than Nita is.
Yeah, because at some point throughout the day, and we miss a couple of parts. I think like right before this, they even visit the mom and the sister. And they're like, tell us how bad of a fucking boy was Nita growing up. It's like, oh, he was a fucking dork. He was an idiot. It's like, we didn't even know what he did before he moved out of the house or something like that.
Yeah.
And he's starting, like, the journalist starting to get fed up by not finding any dirt on the guy. He's just making a film for nothing. Like, you know, it's like the Tiger King before the Tiger King got in all that trouble.
Yeah.
And so yeah, he's at the office now doing a mundane workday. And as he tells his assistant if he printed some papers, but he was like, oh, no, I didn't print them. Let me go print them real quick. And then Nita was like, oh, okay, cool. Just bring them over. And then the guy was like, come on, stop being a pussy. He's like, be a fucking baddie. And then he's like, oh, fuck, I guess I should be a baddie.
The line of dialogue, you're right, but there's just that one piece of dialogue right there that I wanted to bring up. Because it's like, why didn't you just chew that guy out? Why didn't you yell at him? He's just like, well, he's a dumbass. And I don't see any point in chewing out a dumbass.
Like, he's a complete idiot. It's like, I didn't expect any better than him.
Yeah, like, what am I going to do? Yell at a stupid dumbass?
And as he's walking back in with the papers that he asked for, he's like, oh, sir, I wouldn't want to make you look like a pussy in national television. It's like, shoot me out. I don't care. And they kind of reenact the same shit. It's like, you piece of shit.
They even give him a cue. They're like, all right, 1, 2, 3, go. He stands up super awkwardly. He's like, hey, stupid, don't forget my papers again, and just like hits him over the head with an ashtray.
It's funny, like when I cue you after the 10 seconds of silence every episode is like, go for it, and you start, you know, you get it. But like,
I'm a professional.
Nita, he gets a cue and then he just stands there for like 5 seconds before saying anything. So now the editor room, I'm assuming, has to go through the cut, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, it's hilarious.
Oh my God.
It's funny because he's like exactly what you say. He's so awkward about it and obviously reading a dialogue. And anyways, the fucking journalist and his assistant are having the discussion of the off-screen conversation they had about like altering the story, like, you know, editing it out and stuff like that. And then the cameraman's like, I didn't sign up for this. I want to tell the truth. This is not how it went. But then the journalist is like, if I don't do this, I'm going to lose my job. And it gets all crazy. And they end up editing that whole day around him being a bad guy. Like they made it seem like as he broke the girl's leg.
It's like Training Day.
Yeah,
that's what it reminded me of. It reminded me of fucking Denzel Washington.
Another
Training
movie.
Day. But for real, that's what it reminded me of. It was just like, you wanted to see all the badass shit that somebody's going through in a day, just all chopped up and stupid. But like, even everybody knows at work, all the Yakuza members, that he's such a bitch that like it gets published like that, and it's portrayed to be he's such a hard ass and such a badass person. The lieutenants and like the other people are making fun of him. They're just like,
and they end up editing the dumbass line, like he's such a dumbass. Mm-hmm. They ended up editing that piece of voice recording into the conversation he was having with his lieutenant. So he ends up being portrayed as him telling his lieutenant like he's a dumbass.
Yeah.
And then, as dumb as this whole episode is, his coworkers, like,
the Yakuza members
confront him and is like, oh, you think I'm a dumbass? It's like, wait, I had this conversation with you. It's like, I never called you a dumbass. Like, they believe what they saw on TV.
Yeah. And so they're picking on him, they're making fun of him, but like, at a certain point, you can't even remember when, but episode like 7 or 8, they're split into like half episodes, like Cartoon Network fucking episodes or some shit, right? And one of them after this, like the other half episode, is that like the boss of the Yakuza is sick, right? Because we saw that he was shot, he was in the hospital, he's been unconscious, whatever, we don't even know. And he never gave a successor to the family, to the fucking Yakuza family. So everyone's super fucking worried, and everyone leaves it up to Nita being like, okay, cool, the boss is awake, you're gonna go talk to him, but like, me, the lieutenant, tell him that I'm about him. And then they get like another scene in an episode like half a second later that's like the guy that gave him the scar over his eye being like, yo, you go fucking tell the boss that I want to be the new boss. But it's terrifying because so he walks into the hospital room and it's just this old fucking nice guy.
Hina.
Yeah, with Hina. I'm sorry, that's really important that he's with Hina. And he's just this old fucking nice guy that they've seen inside of the office. And he's just like, hey boss, how you doing? How's your head? He's just like, oh, I don't remember a lot of shit and like I don't feel that good any of the time. Yeah. So he's just like, what do you want to talk about? He's just like, oh, I think you should recommend the lieutenant, this, and that. But then Hina butts in and she's just like, you know what, old man boss, I think Nita, who's a really hard worker and like such a nice guy, should be the next boss of the Yakuza. And he's just like, you know what, random stranger girl? That's exactly what's gonna happen.
Because there's a piece of dialogue where it's like, oh, she's like, because when Hina starts talking, Nita in his head is like, what the fuck? It's like, don't talk to him like that. It's like, you don't talk to a boss like in that personal ways. Like, you're talking to him like you're his granddaughter. Blah, blah, blah. So I guess that's where the connection of the old guy made with the little girl almost.
Which is like exactly what he wanted at the same time too. Because he started treating Hina like his granddaughter. Mm-hmm. And so right away he's like, you know what, you're right, random girl. Nita's the new boss now. And there's this random dude, the guy in the tracksuit that we've been talking about. He's in the room and he just starts texting all the bosses like, yo, boss just said Nita's next boss, Nita's next boss, Nita's next boss. And next thing we know, he wakes up inside of a concrete like barrel. Dude, up to his neck.
Overkill, brother.
Yeah.
It was weird.
But there is some biology that's messed up there. If he was encased in a...
It would crush him.
No, he wouldn't be able to expand his lungs.
Yeah.
He wouldn't be able to breathe. Okay. So, like, he's in a concrete barrel, but, like, he literally wouldn't be able to breathe if he was like that.
Yeah.
But, so you see the other Yakuza potential leaders being like, yo, what the fuck, Nita? I thought you said I was gonna be the next boss. How dare you, like...
Double cross me
and sick your daughter on him and, like, butter him up and make you the next boss. He's just like, I swear, guys, I said that it was gonna be the lieutenant. It's not gonna be me, it's gonna be you. And there's like, bullshit. And then the old man shows up, the Yakuza leader, and calls them all stupid. And is like, no, Nita originally was called the leader by me, but he is such a nice guy that he requested that all of you become the next leader. And they're just like, oh. So he's still in a concrete barrel, but these people that were just embarrassed because they almost tried to kill the guy.
By the boss, yeah.
Yeah, but Nita was really the nice, upstanding guy and said that they should all be bosses. Just like, everyone give a round to Nita, the next lieutenant of the organization.
Neck deep in a fucking cement barrel.
Yeah, he still can't breathe or anything.
And by the way, I like how, like, the old man just gets out of the hospital. I mean... I'm sure he has some connections as a Yakuza member and be like, yeah, I want to get the fuck out of here.
He got the best medical care because they were like, if we kill the Yakuza leader, like, that's it.
I want to have mob Medicare.
I don't want to have mob Medicare.
Why not?
I don't want to be practicing medicine. Well, I don't practice medicine anyways.
You don't practice medicine.
But I wouldn't want to be practicing medicine in the mob Medicare.
Why not?
But everyone should also have Medicare because Medicare for all seems nice.
It seems very nice. I heard about it.
Anyway, so talking up episode 12 of this anime, Yuki Matsuri is basically... I feel like we hadn't even been talking about Hina for like 3-4 episodes, but all of a sudden we get like a whole episode about Hina.
Okay, which it's our fault that we decided to take Hina as a main character. Unlike Akame got killed, where Akame is not a fucking main character.
It was called Hinamatsuri. My fucking bad.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, exactly.
My fucking bad. Like,
so you think you're... I don't know. You're just getting stuff that you need, but you didn't expect.
Yeah.
Out of this anime.
Yeah.
And yeah. Go ahead.
No, so all this stupid shit's happening with Nita, and he's the next lieutenant, whatever, and he's at work, and he gets, like, a call, and it's just like, hey, sorry, Mr. Nita, but this is the class president, and, it turns out we were at a class field trip, and Hina's now stuck up on a mountain with a bunch of boys and a girl.
How did they fucking get there?
What a weird-ass fucking field trip, that, like, these children are even able to get lost like that. Like, anyway... Besides the point. Besides the fucking point. This whole next episode is leading up to maybe a would-be season 2, which hasn't been announced or anything. I haven't seen anything discussed about it. But it feels like a lead up to a season 2 as opposed to a proper ending to a first season. Because it's like, the whole point of the episode is to just introduce Hina's classmates to her powers. Because it's like, these two random boys and the girl that's been bartending this entire time. What's her name? Hinamatsuri? The girl that's been bartending. What's her name?
Hitomi?
Hitomi, thank you, Jesus. So it's Hitomi and these two random boys and Hina, and it's just them being locked up in the mountain and Hina having to explain to them, like, yo, I have magic psychic powers and I can get us the fuck out of here. Because the boys are trying to do, like, the sexist thing and, like, be like, oh, I'm the man and I can get us out of this situation. When they're really just dumbass fucking dudes. You know what I mean? Like, how the fuck are they gonna get out of this situation when even the psychic girl can't? And there's the only laugh out loud piece of dialogue happens in this episode for me, because it's like Hina's either slapping somebody or like stepping on somebody, and you hear that boy being like, oh fuck, why is she slapping that person? That should be fucking me. And just like on some weird pervy shit, you know what I mean? But it's hilarious, like the way it's delivered, like it's not even emphasized on, like it's so passing.
And honestly, I wish I could remember more instances that happened where the joke is delivered fast.
Yeah,
it's delivered fast, and you're like, did I just hear that? But the story just keeps going
so
like,
quick, bro.
Yeah.
Like the minute you're laughing about it, you're already on the next scene. You're just like,
And this whole fucking mountain winter fucking thing, it reminds me of another movie. Have you ever watched Alive? No, it's about a true story of an Uruguayan rugby team that their plane crashed on top of a mountain and they survived by eating each other.
What?
Like fucking 4 members of them.
That's what this reminded you of?
Yes. Because they go into like a whole fucking fake eating snow dinner time.
But that's the joke at the same time, because that's how they get like rescued. Is they're making like fake sushi out of snow and fake salmon roe
to get by.
Yeah, which is also like a way to distract Hina, because Hina's like such a massive monster of a psychic power that's like, if you distract her with fake salmon roe sushi snow, that you can just distract the helicopter and get it to save you. Which felt like such a cop-out for a season. That's what I'm saying. Like, this felt like it had nothing to do with anything I've been watching for 12
It felt like
episodes.
such a cop-out because Hina can float, air quotes fly, and she could just gotten everybody out of it.
No, exactly. It wouldn't have been an issue at all. And that's not even the entirety of the episode, because halfway through, once they get rescued by a helicopter that sees their salmon roe sushi fucking snow statue, we get the rest of the Mayo like storyline, which is like her in mainland China and the guy from like the J-pop band in episode 3. He's trying to hunt out Mayo because he's trying to make like a magic music show a la Kiss, or like when Motley Crue would flip Tommy Lee upside down and stuff like that.
You're right, yeah, because fucking 8 episodes back, the Hina performance in the streets where she was levitating the rock stars and they were playing as they were fucking performing, they wanted to travel to the US to learn magic, but it was like a shitload of like wire effects and stuff.
Which is kind of like a mean like way for like the producers and the director of the entire season to treat it, because it's like, how the fuck am I going to remember that? Like, I'm not going to remember that. Like, that's so fucked up that you just, like, are writing, like, I'm going to remember some random fucking thing in this random fucking anime.
So this band, and the leader of that band, like, he got... he wanted that feeling again of that street performance when they were levitating, that he went over there, and now he's in China looking for the same thing.
Right. And the way they're training Mao's powers, it's like it's the same psychic powers as both Hina and Anzu that we've seen this whole time. But she's using it to like, break multiple vases in a row because
without touching them.
Yeah, without touching them because psychic power, blah 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 blah.
It reminds me of all those like pseudo martial arts videos on YouTube.
Yeah,
like when they're like just
a bunch of fake shit, and that's how they're like suckering people into signing up for this Buddhist temple kung fu art style. And that's where like. Because the season ends where Mao and the leader of this band that was hunting her out to learn psychic powers for his fucking K-pop show they're running away, but there's so much money involved with Mao and her fake kung fu that's also her psychic powers.
Because she was getting them members, and that's the way they're exploiting Mao by her performing her real powers posted as real kung fu,
right?
And somebody overhears a conversation she's having with this band, the band leader, and they're like, "No, you're not fucking going anywhere. It's like you're staying here." Blah blah blah. She's like, "Fuck that! I need to go find Hina," because the lead of the band mentions Hina. He's like, "Oh yeah, this girl Hina made us float, and that's what I've been pursuing this whole time." She's like, "Hina, but Hina's right here." She's talking to like two
pieces of wood that like
they're shaped as like the bamboo training rotating log thing.
Like if you've ever seen Ip Man on Netflix, it's like on Ip Man there's like kung fu pillars that also have like jutted pieces of wood sticking out.
Rods,
like it's a person like blocking or kicking you, and you're supposed to like practice your kung fu like that,
and it spins randomly.
Yeah, which is like what she ends up fighting in the end, and that's what's so fucked up. It's just like what we were talking about at the beginning, they saved all the animation for the last episode. It's this bitch kicking and pushing all these random fucking kung fu monks and fucking them up, but like this doesn't matter, you know what I mean? We just saw the ending of the Hina storyline for the episode where we were just describing her on the mountain and she gets rescued.
And we didn't even mention this is how the anime starts. With that fight on that alley, on that street.
We talked about it, but we didn't talk about it in context of her being Mao, and like, because you're right, like episode 1 opened up and it's just Mao doing her kung fu and her psychic bullshit, and it's just like, I need to get to Hina, get me to Hina ASAP. Cut to the actual anime. And that's how this ends. It's just like her doing kung fu, she defeats a robot by these weird ass monks, and end of season, she's on her way to Japan with this weird band member guy.
We believe that she's on her way to find Hina and Anzu, because she loves them really much, very much.
End of anime.
That's it. Did we learn anything about this anime? Yes. Do we understand this anime? No. Do we know what might happen after because of the light novel? No, we don't.
We really don't. And like, it's so fun. Like, I really do feel like that's why I said at the beginning, like, we were probably going to come off really negative when describing this and, like, explaining everything that happened. But it's, like, it's good. Like, it is good. Like, especially describing it to somebody else. Like, it's so funny. Like, there's multiple times us just sitting here that I felt like I was going to bust out laughing. And, like, I was just trying my best not to.
We had that instance with another anime that we thought it was gonna be a horrible conversation, but we actually had a good conversation. I can't remember which.
It was kind of Konosuba, because we described Konosuba. That was the one where we lost the recording. We were describing it super bland, and it came out super fucking whack. We recorded the whole episode, but then your computer shit itself, and then we ended up having to re-record it, and it came out way, way better.
Which was a good thing. Yeah. It was a great thing. We recorded the next day after that, right?
Yeah, we were doing a double episode. Yeah.
But anyways, that was episode 49?
Of Between Nerds
Podcast. This was Hinamatsuri. Honestly, now that we talked about it, yeah, go watch it. If you want an easy week,
short, yeah, you might as well watch it.
Yeah, if you want an easy week of watching some anime, just watch it. You're gonna fall in love with the animation, with the stupidness, with the everyday mundane stuff, and with the homeless stuff too. If you want to feel something,
yeah.
But it's cool. Thumbs up. Thank you for the recommendation. Nerd down.
Nerd down.
Nerd down.
Bienvenidos a Nerd Down. What I did want to talk about briefly was this past week, Made in Abyss was announced for a Hollywood production live action movie, which I think is significant. Not just because it's a live action movie, which normally suck. Like, when I brought this to you earlier, like, it sounds shitty. Because, like, a lot of the live action movies based off of anime are produced in Japan and they have really bad CGI, X, Y, and Z. But I feel like this one produced in Hollywood is going to be a little better.
Yeah. And honestly, it doesn't worry me about how they're going to go about it, like, CGI-wise and effect-wise or plot-wise. Sometimes I get more concerned about the character placement or who they cast, the cast that they do. For example, AOT, which is, as we know from the lore, that it's different people from different places in this community. Like, people have like German descent, Japanese descent, Irish descent, and stuff like that.
Right.
You can make a movie with those characters. Sometimes I feel that when a movie is made of an anime, like the Dragon Ball Evolution fucking shit dumpster fire.
No, I agree.
Like, when they want to whitewash, or when they do fucking the Scarlett Johansson movie. What was it?
We watched it. The one based on a cyborg, and she's
Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost in the Shell,
or fucking The Great Wall with Matt Damon. Like, I feel that they have a easier way to portray these kids in this, because in that anime story, they're not meant to be Japanese, or we're never told that they're of Japanese descent or anything like that.
Right, but it
feels weird to me sometimes.
No, I agree. And we don't know anything about it yet. Mm-hmm. And that's the thing about Made in Abyss too. Like, I agree with you completely. Like, the ethnic standpoint, the racial standpoint, is completely left ambiguous. Like, the main girl's blonde with green eyes. Like, that could either be any random anime character that randomly has eye color and hair color that means absolutely nothing, or it could be like what we're watching this upcoming week, the Saga of Tanya, about a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl, which is actually significant to the story because she's a fucking fascist.
Mm-hmm, she's a German Nazi.
Yeah, and it matters, but it doesn't matter. And you're right. I know nothing about even like the studio that's putting it out, because it doesn't sound like it's like Warner Brothers or Sony Pictures or like anything like that. Like anybody significant. It could be any random nobody, but it's being marketed in good light because it's a Hollywood production. Mm-hmm. But it's just some random fucking loser that lives in Hollywood.
Yeah, exactly. And sometimes that's what scares me. And that's why when you mentioned it earlier before our recording today, I was like, is it going to be good? Are we excited about this?
Well, I guess what I am more excited about is that season 2 is coming out soon. You know what I mean? Because we were talking earlier about like July anime releases, and everything that we love is coming out within the next month. We're getting Beastars all at once, like July 23rd or something, which is fucking amazing. We're getting the start of Miss Kobayashi's Dragon Maid in a week. We're getting just everything. I don't know. Like, we're getting the second half of My Hero Academia, which is going to be the better half of the season, which I do want to touch on real quick, because I read My Hero Academia every week. I'm not trying to spoil anything. I'm not trying to act as an elitist for somebody that reads the manga every week. But I've described to you personally, Aldo, that like it feels like a different manga, the way things have progressed so much in like 3-4 years. Like how different tonally the manga is to the anime that's being produced right now. But it's not even that. It's more like it's so much darker. Like, it feels like such a different work that I really feel like everybody should start watching and reading the My Hero manga and anime like immediately.
From what you tell me, it almost reminds me of Hunter x Hunter.
How so?
As that Hunter x Hunter, for me, at least at the beginning, well, the first time I watched it, was a light fucking anime. But later on, we just see like a mind, like a almost like a moral conflict between our main characters later on in the anime.
No, I agree. You know, I agree completely, and I think that's what's different a little bit because Hunter x Hunter is like you do get a sense of that, but that's because the anime ends at a point that it's very clear that the manga is never going to end. Yeah, like the anime to Hunter x Hunter knows that the manga to Hunter x Hunter is just literally never going to end. Like the last chapter is never going to be published.
All right, well, let me compare it to almost like Invincible. That this person that we thought was going to have a good lucky time, it's having some hardships.
No, I also agree, but I also disagree at the same time.
Because I haven't read it. I haven't been caught up to the anime stuff.
But that's what I'm saying. I haven't even read Hunter x Hunter. Yeah. But like I watch a lot of videos about spoilers and Hunter x Hunter lore. Like Gon, from my understanding, which doesn't feel like spoilers because I don't entirely know what I'm talking about, is that Gon isn't even a main character anymore. And he hasn't been for a few years now. The difference between that and maybe Hunter x Hunter is that they've completely switched genres of like, so My Hero Academia was always significant, especially in Western audiences like us, because it took from Western media, like comic books. It took from Superman and Batman and like superhero but like Western comic book heroes. And it always took from that and made it very, not just Japanese, but its own. You know what I mean? And I really feel like we've hit a different point in that storytelling to the point that's just like, early on, Horikoshi just wanted to show you all these cool-ass characters he came up with. Like, look at this badass power. 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 And that's still where the anime is. But the manga has become such like a Batman noir kind of thing to the point that like you don't even understand the character's motivation, or not even Deku, but like every character's motivations to the point that it's like, it feels like a whole different thing. It really does almost feel like a noir right now. It really feels like this really dark, grungy, attitude-driven Batman Beyond kind of thing.
And if I'm not mistaken, or correct me if I'm wrong, but like the first time I saw that in My Hero Academia was with the Stain arc.
Right,
the Stains section of it.
But do you see what I mean? Like anime wise, that was like 3-4 years ago. Manga wise, that was like 5 years ago. And we're like, think about like that was like a toe drop into that like
into what it was
genre. Yeah. And at this point, it's just a whole different thing. And I really think everybody should watch it. And I really think even where One Piece is right now, which I know that's a super biased way to go about this nerd thing, because those are the only like manga I read weekly. But it's just like, even One Piece has gotten to the point that it's like, the things you thought weren't significant that were introduced in the first 15 minutes in episode 1 are all of a sudden like being broken down 10 times fold by fucking nerds on the internet.
It's fucking crazy, dude. We've been talking about watching My Hero Academia for the podcast.
Yeah.
But in somehow we don't think we're ready for it.
It's because it's almost like too basic, too average.
Well, yes. But I mean, the first season of Lelouch was kind of just the basics of it.
But like that, we're so far removed, like time wise, even from Code Geass, that we can speak about it in a certain way that almost feels nostalgic. We can't even talk about My Hero Academia like that, because it's like I'm describing it as feeling super old storytelling, as feeling super past tense. It started 4 or 5 years ago. Like that's it. That's absolutely nothing. Like it's essentially a brand new anime. And I can't even just, I don't know. Like, I really feel guilty about it, because even every time you bring it up, every time we're about to discuss like your entire timeline for July, and even you right now tried bringing up like My Hero Academia, and I just felt like it's such a disservice, because it's so significant, but so new that I'm not even comfortable shitting on it yet.
It's not ripe enough.
Yeah, because it's like Dead Man Wonderland. That shit came out in 2012. Like that shit was ready to get shit up. Yeah, that shit was. It's like the South Park episode where it's like, oh, it's been 10 years since 9/11. We can finally rag on it. It's like I need something to be 5-6 years old before I can fully just fucking shit on it and ruin somebody's day.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, we consider that. We've considered Demon Slayer too. I believe like I'm more open to discuss Demon Slayer because Demon Slayer is over.
It's also because Demon Slayer is like. Literally, like, somebody that's read the entirety of Demon Slayer and, like, read and reads My Hero Academia week to week, like, Demon Slayer is just clearly just such a better piece of work. Like, it's just, like...
What is?
Demon Slayer is better.
Oh, okay.
But it's almost, like, sad how much better it is. Because the past 20 years, One Piece has been the best-selling manga, like... 9 out of 10 times, right?
You said Demon was written by a woman, right?
Yeah, Demon Slayer. The Demon Slayer manga
dropped fire and she got fuck off.
Yeah, and she was really public because the publisher for Weekly Shonen Jump. I can't even remember their name right now, but it's super obvious. But she has put out complete statements before in questionnaires at the end of like the magazine or whatever, just like, yo, I feel X, Y, and Z. And she was super upfront with her audience. And she was just like, after the end of Demon Slayer, as it was published, she was just like, it's too perfect. Like, I can't touch it. Like, and I've probably made already too much money from this to the point that I can just fuck off and do whatever I want. And I think that's the exact opposite problem. Oh, excuse me. That the author of Naruto and Boruto has had. Mm-hmm. Because the author of Boruto has not been getting Naruto numbers for the past, like, of course, 5-6 years that Boruto has already been published. And
nobody cares.
He even, no, exactly. Nobody gives a shit. And even his most recent side project, which was about fucking samurai with Naruto character models, it got canceled after like 6 months. Mm-hmm. And for this woman to produce Demon Slayer to be such a quality product, contained product in and of itself that doesn't need 20 years of explanation like even One Piece does, is just such a feat in and of itself. It almost feels like I hate those arguments online that feel like fake feminism arguments, fake empowerment arguments. But this really felt like such a powerful statement from a woman just shutting up an entire organization of men and just being like, I can do what you do and just walk away from it. Like, it's so easy for me to walk away from it that you should be embarrassed by it.
Yeah.
And it was just, oh God, everybody fucking read Demon Slayer. Jesus Christ.
And watch it too. It's fucking great. But before we get to the main fucking body of the Nerd Down, please follow us on Twitter, on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Between Nerds. Also, email us any suggestions, any comments, concerns, your favorite anime, your daddy's favorite anime, your grandma's favorite anime, at Between Nerds Podcast at gmail.com. Also, use the hashtag LGTBNerds for every like, comment, retweet will be donated to the Borderland Rainbow Center, which contributes to a safe place for our LGBT community. But yeah, what you get into? We haven't done our nerd down in like 3 weeks.
But there's just so much shit to catch up on. Even that, like Loki, we haven't talked anything about Loki, like, at all.
What'd you think about Loki, first episode? What'd you think about it? What's going on?
I think the first episode is exactly what the Marvel Cinematic Universe needs when it comes to, like, series being Disney Plus exclusive. Because it's like, it really feels like in 10 years, we're going to be talking about, like, well, in Loki, you saw that there's different branch lines and nothing fucking matters, and everything's tied off, and, like, Disney can write whatever the fuck they want, because we saw that in episode 1 of Loki. And that's literally how episode 1 of Loki plays. It's like this character that we've seen in different timelines and dead and alive multiple times. And just an asshole. But it's just like, all of a sudden he's important because we're seeing the timeline through him.
What I like the most about like the first episode, which if you weren't really paying attention as you were watching the entire Infinity Saga of the Marvel Universe, is that Loki, he was the main baddie.
Yeah.
He was the main baddie at one point. You know? He was the indestructible being that Thanos was at one point.
Because even in Endgame, we saw him get away.
Mm-hmm. And then we progressed to this Infinity Saga that at this point, what Loki's telling us is that it doesn't even fucking matter. Is that we saw Loki grow as a brother, as a person, as a son, but that Loki died. That Loki died by the hand of Thanos, and we get the first time Loki gets caught. We follow that Loki's timeline, so he hasn't learned what it is to be a brother, what it is to be a son. You know, what it is to be like a almost regular person, and it's in him because as episode 2 tells us, is like he starts watching his timeline that he's supposed to be on, the one that he gets killed, and he gets an ego drop. He gets ego checked.
Yeah, he does get checked because you're right. We do see that because he's able to see like every action that's been the main timeline, because the Loki we're following is the Loki that grabbed the Tesseract after Ant-Man and Captain America traveled back in time to do the time heist and try to like recapture all the Infinity Stones, to the point that like this one is like a variant of a timeline that we haven't experienced yet, because he uses the Tesseract to go into a timeline in Mongolia.
He doesn't change timeline. He just teleports.
Right.
He teleports to Mongolia in the present time.
Right. Which is enough of a deterrent from the
main timeline, which we know from the Infinity Saga.
Right. That the TMV, what are the name?
NWA?
The time
TVA. Time Variant Agency.
Yeah, right. Then. To the point that they pick him up and they like dehumanize him, which is like, that's what I'm saying about it's going to be significant, because he's a nobody from like episode 1. It's like, you're just some random variant from some random timeline. They got a hold of the Tesseract, which is so insignificant in this area of the TVA that nothing you've been working your life to accomplish matters.
Yeah, we later on find out when he almost gets away that he's trying to look for the Tesseract to use it, and he finds it on a drawer full of Infinity Stones that they don't have any power in this TVA. Like,
imagine how heartbreaking that would be for you. Like, you're dedicating your whole life to uprooting society based off this one fucking rock, and it means nothing to anybody that actually manages a timeline.
And I like it. I like it. We get introduced to Luke Wilson's character, which is Morbius, MMMM.
Me and Karen didn't like the most recent episode, which, like, I know I'm skipping over episode 2 real quick, which is mainly about the narrative about how, like, if there's an agency that can detect variance in time over separate timelines and periods, it'd be better for you to hide inside of natural events.
Well, yeah, let's just quickly go over that. So the TVA tells Loki that there's another Loki fucking up shit and killing TVA agents and shit like that. So Loki gets pretty much recruited, almost witness protection program into like the TVA or like an informant kind of TVA kind of scenario.
He's being promised that he's going to meet with the Time Lords.
With the Timekeepers.
With the Timekeepers, mm-hmm. Right. And that's going to be his big payoff.
Yes. So they tell them that he's a variant. He's not the Loki in the main timeline. The Loki in the main timeline died by Thanos, right? So a good fun fact about Loki is that in the comics, he's a god, and whenever he's killed, he's reincarnated either as a male or a woman in a different style. So it's very canon to the comic book that they are hinting to a Lady Loki at this point.
Right.
So so now what you were talking about, the reason the Loki variant that we believe is Lady Loki, the way she's hiding in apocalyptic events in history, because nothing that you do will change that, like the Pompeii.
Because like the TVA's volcano. Like baseline measurement is like variations that disrupt from the main timeline. Mm-hmm. But if you steal from a shopping cart inside of Pompeii 30 minutes before the volcano explodes, it's not going to affect the main timeline in a significant enough fashion.
You can jerk off, you can do whatever, it's not going to change the thing.
You can jerk off in front of the Queen of Pompeii, but like if it's 30 minutes before the volcano comes off, like no one's going to give a shit, and no one's going to be able to like tell statistically that you were there.
So that's how we track our Loki main or another variant. Is she considered another variant?
She is the main variant.
She's the main variant?
Yeah. But like, so you're right. So that's like the plot of episode 2. But like by the end of episode 2, it's clear that like our Loki's discovered that, but that he's able to track her on certain planets. And that's where we get a sense that her powers are different from our Loki's, because she has enchantment powers that are able to like overcome the psyche and like the willingness and the psychosis of a certain person that she's able to touch physically. Yeah. And that lets her control their mind by implanting a false memory inside of them.
Correct. And like you said, the end of episode 2, as they're looking for apocalyptic events, we find out that we have like a climate fucking disaster in 2054, and that makes Alabama a beachside state, which then they get a hurricane 4 years later, and that's where they find Lady Loki at this department store, which is X's something.
Yeah.
And so at the end of that episode, what we believe is Lady Loki, she has been stealing the time capsule reset mines. Yeah. And she's gotten enough to send them different places and different times to flush out the agents at the TVA so she can go there. And that's where episode 3 begins.
Right, because by episode 3... Lady Loki and like the male Loki variant that we've been following are like transported to a moon that is about to be crushed by the planet it is rotating, and that means that they're about to be destroyed and eliminated from the timeline because they're in this timeline doesn't exist and is about to be destroyed anyways.
It reminded me of that episode of Futurama where they make the spaceship to leave Earth because it's about to be destroyed, but Leela doesn't get a ticket and Fry gives her the ticket. Do you remember that?
No, yeah, it does. It almost reminded me of the one where like there's like a rock god on like a foreign planet, and the people of Futurama are forming like physical relationships with this rock.
Oh, yeah.
But, like, none of it matters because they're in this alternate pocket dimension of their reality that didn't even affect the main part of their lives being destroyed. Because So I watched the whole episode, front to back. It's just like they're on a train, they're not on a train, they're talking. They have this really intimate moment where you think they're going to kiss, where they're talking about like, I could enchant you, I could enchant you, I could implant a false memory in your memory, I can enchant a false memory in your memory, and you don't really know what's happening between them. And then Lady Loki wakes up, and the male Loki's like dancing and singing like he's a real Asgardian, and then by the end of the episode we get this long ass fake
fight.
No, it's not a fight, but it's a fake singular cut, like 5-minute sequence. It's shot like you're supposed to think it is a full shot, but there's enough like objects and scenery popping through that they are able to do actual cuts.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and that's after they get kicked out of the train, because they get in a fight on the train, they get kicked out, they walk to the city where the Noah's Ark is, and to get the fuck out of that moon that it's going to be destroyed. And that sequence reminds me of like Inception.
Yeah.
Because so they show up at the front gate. The front gate is being raided and is being exploded. So the dialogue literally says, we should just go around. And it follows Lady Loki and Loki through what's her name? Sylvie, right?
Sylvie.
Sylvie and Loki. We follow them in a single shot, going literally around. And as I'm looking at this sequence, I'm like, they literally just went around because they show up at the main gate again, and the spaceship gets destroyed.
Yeah, it's disappointing, but it's not disappointing because it's like it feels so cool that they're trying to shoot all this CGI shit in one shot. Because when me and Karen were watching it, like the scene, like the scenario immediately before this was like them walking through the desert next to train tracks, which is just straight green screen work. It looks super ugly and cheesy, but immediately after this, it's like, this is why we're doing green screen work. It's just walking you through all these 80s Tokyo bright ass like
alien planet
community looking shopping district, you know what I mean? And it looks super bright and fucked up, and it's so dope to watch. Like, it's like, and we don't know what comes out of it because, so I watched that. And, like, I hear Karen talking about, like, yo, the episode wasn't about anything, huh? That was kind of whack. And then we go do our own thing Saturday night. And then I'm watching New Rockstar Sunday morning. And I'm watching the guy being like, one of the, either Loki or Sylvie is enchanting the other and implanting that false memory in the other. And then you rewatch that same sequence. And you're like, holy fuck. Like, you digest it so different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, without knowing that, you're just like, oh shit, maybe that was it. I mean, Rockstars has been right before, Rockstars has been wrong before, but yeah, it's crazy. But I did feel the same feeling as far as like being a filler episode. Yeah. It just felt very like nothing happened.
No, you're right.
And we're waiting a week for these episodes.
Yeah.
You know?
Which, like, even bringing that into Rick and Morty season, what are we in? Fucking 4 or 5?
5, I believe.
5. Like, I watched episode 1. It's, like, funny that they're back into the dumbass Rick and Morty
shenanigans
type of storytelling where they'll talk some random shit. They're just like, Morbius can control the cops, which is obviously the dumbest thing that doesn't even make sense, but they run with it for a full episode that it's like a permanent meme within the community. And I'm so glad that they've reestablished that that's like part of their storytelling.
And I was going to mention this to you because I haven't seen the new season. I haven't seen the new episode. But the last season, we waited so long for it, and I don't know if it was just us growing up or anything, but it felt very dull.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
It was like the least rated like fucking season ever.
And the excitement I felt for Rick and Morty when it was coming out, first season, second season, third season, it was fucking crazy. So I'm now that you tell me this, I'm looking forward to it.
No, I'm sure you'll watch maybe the first episode. We're recording on Sunday at like what 10:46 p.m. and there's a new episode that just finished airing that I'm sure either you or me or both of us will watch by tomorrow, and it's just so much better. Like, I'm so happy for all the drama that's been happening offset with like Dan Harmon being accused of like sexual misconduct on the set of the Community.
Yeah.
And Dan Harmon obviously has his own fucking shows because on Hulu, what is it, Interstellar, whatever the fuck they're called, just came out like for season 2.
Solar Opposites?
Solar Opposites, thank you. And they Interstellar. And it's just clear they have their own shit going on, but I think it's so cool that they can come back together and make like this perfect thing that was Rick and Morty.
It's good. Yeah, and I'm sure it takes a lot of like professional maturity to just get back to business.
But at that same time, you can see why people would be mad that people even support Rick and Morty, because Dan Harmon was like,
correct.
Like fuck it. we've talked about people that abuse their language when it comes to talking about sexual abuse. Because, like, maybe it was, like, some bullying or some misinappropriate conduct and people got canceled, and I'm thinking specifically of, like, Aziz Ansari. Like, he didn't want to have sex with a woman. He kicked her out of his apartment, which isn't, like, he didn't assault anybody.
Yeah.
He was just an asshole.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, which isn't, like, super cancel-worthy, but it was bad enough at the time in the context that it came up that a lot of people, like, wrote off, like, Master of None, Aziz Ansari. But when it comes to people, like, in this context, it's like, more believable.
It is more believable. I don't think... if what you're asking me is that that Harmon is more guilty than Aziz Ansari, yes, I do believe that.
It's because, for me, I think it's because he was in a position of power. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, you're directing a multicast burst of people, like, on a show. Like, it's marketed as a multi-person comedy. You are singling out a woman, you as the director, you as her boss, and saying, like, hey, like, you need to let me take you out on this day or give you less scenes. You need to show more and dress more in this way because I think you're hot. Mm. Like, that's so fucking weird.
Yeah.
Like, that's so fucking creepy, and especially with you in power, that's just inappropriate in, like, 10 different ways.
Yeah.
Which, like, I love... I've discussed explicitly how much I appreciate Dan Harmon's writing, especially when it comes to, like, writing heroes and characters and the hero's journey and how he's able to, like, modernize this way of storytelling. Mm-hmm. So, in this... I'm so sorry. I keep cutting you off. But, like, this is the last thing I'm going to say. This is the only time in Rick and Morty Season 5, Episode 1 that we've seen Dan Harmon vocalize a main antagonist. Mm. Which I thought was weird, but I'm not sure if there was more context on that I'm trying to reach on because I'm a fan.
Yeah. No, dude, Dan Harmon is great, and it just brings me to a lot of, like, different topics of conversations, like, before, like, with Michael Jackson. Like, you know what I'm saying? Michael Jackson was or was not a pedophile. And people, obviously, I mean, poor guy, I mean, he's dead, but...
I don't completely understand, like, what happened with Michael Jackson.
Me neither. But, for example, in the case of, like, Britney Spears... If you really want to help Britney Spears, stop listening to her shit. And, I mean, to my main point is that, like, Michael Jackson music, it's so liked.
Yeah.
That nobody in any place starts hearing Michael Jackson is like, boo, put that shit out.
Boo, pedophile.
You know what I'm saying? Like, so... This Dan Harmon thing, it's so crazy because, I mean, he's still alive. We know the accusations. But, like, like Rick and Morty, I'm like, I wanna watch it.
Yeah. It's just because after seeing, like, Solar Opposites, it's clear, like, Dan Harmon's the one with the sauce. Like, it wasn't Justin Roiland. Like, what's significant about Rick and Morty is that Justin Roiland can do the voices for everybody and anybody, right? The thing about episodes without Dan Harmon, like, directing and writing, it's just clear Dan Harmon's it. Like, that's the sauce. And that's what feels so bad about it. And just jumping on from that Dan Harmon fucking shitfest, I do want to go over the next anime that we will be discussing for the next 5 weeks. We have gone ahead and described the anime that we will be watching the rest of June, which will be published the first week of July, which will discuss the winner of the June hashtag usage and
a new giveaway entry.
A new giveaway entry, all that shit.
What are we watching for July, brother?
July. Okay, next 5 weeks. We're going to be watching Tanya the Evil, which was recommended by a user on Twitter. And he also used the hashtag LGBT Nerds to be automatically entered into our June giveaway. We will be including his name into our random number generator next episode. But after Tanya the Evil, we will be watching season 1 of Dr. Stone, which was also recommended to us, which I thought it was hilarious that, like, he described what Dr. Stone was to us like we didn't know.
We don't want to sound pretentious, but Dr. Stone is good.
Dr. Stone is excellent. Like, I know Dr. Stone, don't get me wrong. Yeah. Like, if you've been listening to our anime for the past, like, our podcast for the past 2-3 months, you'll know that I was watching Dr. Stone every week, like, last anime season, and I got caught up with watching stuff for this podcast. So, don't get me wrong, I know Dr. Stone. And then the week after that, we will be watching the entirety of Odd Taxi.
But I do appreciate your enthusiasm into describing Dr. Stone to us. And that makes me feel like you're invested in Dr. Stone.
It's good. It's good.
And I want to do a good episode about it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you've seen parts of it, right?
No, I've seen it.
Yeah, okay. We've seen the entirety of it. Yeah. And that's rare that we've both seen the entirety of an anime at the same time. Because a lot of times it's like, well, it's normally me, as the connoisseur of anime, has seen most of what we've watched. But
like I've said before in this podcast, at the beginning of the podcast, when I was growing up in Juarez, like, I watched anime by chance. You know what I'm saying?
That shit just came out.
So, like, when I was growing up in high school and I met you and I met Lloyd and stuff like that, and he was an anime fan, and I was like, oh shit, like, this is a thing. Like, I want to know more about it. And I feel like before the podcast, I didn't have enough encouragement to watch something and sit down. And now I do.
No, absolutely. And, like, even the opposite direction. Like, we've seen things like, what is it called with guts?
Berserk?
We've seen Berserk. You've seen Berserk before me, and you've had to explain to me certain scenes for Berserk. Which I think is, like, a really good, like, back and forth. You know what I mean? Because for episode 3, for the 3rd week from now, we will be watching Odd Taxi, which is something neither of us have seen entirely. We talked in a Nerd Down maybe like 6-7 episodes ago.
We talked about the first episode?
We talked about the first episode that we saw together at VNA, which it ended like this past week. And we're super excited to watch it. And it's our fucking podcast, so we're going to pick what we watch when we want to watch it. So
yeah, unless you guys give us suggestions, we'll think about it.
Exactly. Because if you notice, like, how we're describing it, like, the Tanya the Evil and Dr. Stone Season 1 are suggestions. And then we're going to watch whatever the fuck we want to watch, which is Odd Taxi. Because immediately the week after that, we're going to be watching something I've been wanting to pick up on for a while, which is Do-Da-Da-Da-Da-Da.
Do-Da-Da-Da-Da-Da.
Which is, it's like if FLCL met the mob. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And it feels so fun like that, and all the characters are super interesting, and it has multiple seasons, but we're going to be watching season 1.
How many episodes we got?
It's only like, I want to say season 1's like 24 episodes.
Okay, cool. Like it.
And then the last week of June, which I think the episode would actually be published calendar-wise the first week of July.
And that will be our year.
A year is going to be K-On! And K-On! Is a slice of life about a bunch of anime girls starting a band at a school club.
Yep.
Which is a very fitting, humble way to end a full year of anime viewing.
And yeah, we're trying to get some ideas of what we want to do for that episode, or what we want to do community wise, or something. I want to do something special. Like you said, might as well get a cake with our fucking logo on it.
I don't give a shit. Yeah, and we have multiple logos because shout out to Hector. Like, we have all this fucking shit and like a lot of works that we've been working on, and
just lined up shit.
Just lined up shit, just hanging out in the background. We might just start printing shit, and we might just start producing shit. And so it has nothing to do about the quality of like what we've received drafted wise. It's just, I'm sick. I'm sure Aldo's sick of just not having anything lying around.
So if you want a fucking Between Nerds Yu-Gi-Oh playing mat, hit us up. If you want a fucking husband to Drew Pello, hit us up. They're gonna be making those. But yeah, that was a month of July. What else did we get into? We watched The Conjuring.
We watched The Conjuring. We talked about that.
Oh, did we?
4 weeks ago already. But what I did want to talk about was I think it's Warner Brothers, the producers of the Transformers movie franchise, said that the next movie is going to be a Beast Wars movie. Have you ever seen Beast Wars? It's like Transformers, the Transformers franchise, like all them. But the show that came out in the 90s was entirely CGI, and it was about if robots transported onto primeval Earth, like before society, and they were doing scans of like the life forms around on Earth that they could.
So it's like,
it's Transformers, except they're animals.
Yes.
Yeah. So there's a gorilla, there's a cheetah, there's a hippo, and for that to be in film form, I am super, super excited about, because that was like my favorite as a child was Beast Wars, because I never understood why people talk Transformers this, Transformers that, because like I was born in 93, by 95, 96 it was just Beast Wars.
And you know what, I do remember that, because I remember as a kid I knew Transformers, but all the toys that I had were Transformer animal toys.
Right.
Yeah, and they were fucking intricate as fuck, and once you fucked up and you can't get it back to one of each position, you're fucked. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember like maybe 4 or 5 years ago, I was on YouTube and I was just looking up like old Transformers toys. It's weird that there's like millions and tens of millions of views of people just playing with Transformers toys. Cause it's like, look, I have this mint condition toy that I can still play with and like transform.
It's a new era, bro. People post their interest online and people like their interest, and it's crazy.
I'm very open on Twitter. Don't get me wrong. Follow me on Twitter at what do you even use my Twitter? Drew Elias, DREWALIYAS.
Yes, sir. And follow me at Valdez Vibes. But I do want to talk about something else that we're interested in. Mappa Studios with we just watched the Chainsaw Man.
Yeah, like shout out to Mappa. Like it's almost fucked up, like how they're just picking up every mainstream hype anime and just like publicizing it under their own name. It's almost like bullying within the anime industry, because it's like Studio Mappa's produced Attack on Titan Season 2. They did Jujutsu Kaisen. They did like I don't even know. They've done so many things that we talk about so highly in the past 3 years.
In a row they're doing it.
Yeah. And you were making the joke before we started recording this that it's like, imagine how their animators feel. They're just like whipping them into shape. No lunch breaks.
A steam whistle.
It's and the God of High School too, which is like a Crunchyroll like original. And it's like I'm so excited because like jumping away from the humanity aspect of it, it's just like I know it's going to be so high quality, like especially Chainsaw Man. We saw the trailer. It's clearly it tells you up front that it's a mix of 2D animation with 3D animation. It's trying to go like the what's the Amazon Prime show about the kid whose dad is an evil alien?
Invincible?
Yes. It's like Invincible, where it's all 3D modeling, but they have a filter over it that makes it look like 2D modeling. It looks like that, right? But like much better quality, because obviously Japan knows how to make anime, and they're better at animation than Americans are. But it just looks so quality, like the blood texture, the scenes of like intimacy almost that we know that happens in the manga between characters, and we know it's going to be a gore fest, but it doesn't treat it like a cheap gore fest that somebody advertising Dead Man Wonderland would have treated it.
Yeah, like Parasite or Dead Man Wonderland. Yeah.
Right.
And honestly, I feel that MAPPA is it's giving the first steps to people that want to use CGI in the good way, because we've talked about CGI before in other anime that there is just a cop out. It's just an easy way to get out an animation that you didn't have the time nor the budget to animate it, and it just looks clunky and it looks awful on an animation.
Right.
But from what MAPPA told us and showed us with AOT, it was great. It looked fucking, fucking amazing. And I'm not mad.
I'm not mad at all. I'm super excited.
And then we have Godzilla 2 coming out.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, how the fuck does MAPPA and Singular Point and Studio Orange get time for shit like this? Because, like, we're talking about maybe by August, we're going to be watching Season 2 of Beastars all at once. And that's because Studio Orange and MAPPA were able to put out Season 2 of Beastars sequentially in Japan, but like it was high enough quality that Netflix, who only releases anime drops all at once, is already able to put out a dub. Mm-hmm. It's just like, okay, so I've brought him up before, but you don't watch Mother's Basement on YouTube, correct?
No, I don't.
Okay, so he talks a lot of anime. He tries to talk in big literary terms and stuff like that. But he did an episode maybe like 2-3 weeks ago that was about how that 90% of published anime has come out in the past 5 years.
Oh, yes. Yeah. And I was going to tell you about this when we were talking before we got the whole month of July on. For some reason, I feel like we should touch up on some of the like 90s, early 2000s anime. But then again, I think about it, I'm like, bro, like most of the anime that we've been watching or that there is, it's made on like current time, like current era. So I almost feel bad for not touching on some of these classics. Luckily we got to Cowboy Bebop, but we know how that turned out. But it's weird to know that this crazy medium of anime is just blowing up right now.
Which is like mind blowing, because it's like they're only doing this because of like capitalistic tendencies, right?
Capitalist Texas. Uh-huh.
Yeah, also that. So that like they're only going to publish things that they think are profitable. So anime has been seen as so profitable that they can throw money at the wall and be like, we will animate everything. Everything that is being published, we will animate it. And you're right. We will catch something and we will make some X amount of dollars that still puts us in the black. And that's what watching anime feels like right now. Because it's like, so this past weekend, I watched, after watching Hinamatsuri, don't get me wrong, I watched Horimiya, which I talked about maybe 2 months ago at the beginning of the winter anime season.
The one that you say I'm gonna hate?
No. That's Durarara.
Oh, Durarara. Oh, okay.
But Hinamatsuri, not Hinamatsuri, Horimiya is just strictly a slice of life. Like, literally, there's nothing spicy about it. And I feel like I in myself felt guilty spending time watching it when there's all these other things being published at the same time. Because it's like, I saw a show that I vibed with for 3-4 episodes, and I was like, okay, I'm going to finish the season. I'm on episode like 9, episode 10, and I'm just like, I feel guilty. Like, there's a million other things I should be watching right now besides these two 17-year-olds trying to fuck. Like,
that's how I feel watching One Piece. I'm watching One Piece, I'm like, this is great, but I could watch like some other stuff, but it's a guilty pleasure.
That's awful, because like One Piece manga wise is like the past chapter of One Piece was like my favorite chapter in maybe 2.5-3 months. I swear to God,
I'm on episode 200.
I know. I'm not trying to spoil anything, but like it's just so clear. Well, I already talked about this, but it's so clear that things that happened in episode 1 that like were you thought throwaway dialogue, like matter so much. And you have nerds pulling out like interviews from Oda from like 15-20 years ago being like, this nerd said this about this character then, so that means this one reveal means this other thing that we didn't think that it originally meant. And you have to take it in because you're just like, fuck, like it's not even that you think it's canon. It's just like you have to consider everything canon if you follow it that closely. Until it's proven otherwise. You have to sit there and be like, this has a possibility of being true.
Of being true. Yeah, you were telling me about when Luffy was going to be executed. We don't know for a fact that his dad or his grandpa was there at the time or some shit like that from the conversation we had with CJ.
His dad.
His dad? Right?
Dad.
His dad.
It's because Dragon, like, the way it happens in both the manga and the anime is, like, he's in the stirrups or whatever. Like, his head's in the
guillotine.
In the guillotine and the cuffs, and his hands are there too. And then all of a sudden, a thunderstorm starts popping up, except there's no rain, and like there's no actual thunder landing down. And then out of nowhere, Dragon pops up. He's like, he's telling the audience, and nobody else in particular, is just like, oh, that's my son, I gotta get him out of here. And then Luffy just randomly pops out. And
crazy.
That's fucking One Piece. You know what I mean? Like, like how the fuck is somebody supposed to get into One Piece when I'm trying to reference something that happened 25 years ago, narratively wise?
I don't know, dude. It's crazy. Sometimes I feel shackled because I can't watch One Piece and I have to watch something else. And I'm just like, God damn it, like I have to watch something else. But I do enjoy watching all the anime that we watch.
Well, I keep telling you, maybe you should get into reading more. Because, like, don't get me wrong. Like, you've lent me Batman comics and I don't read that shit for like 2-3 months.
But what... I want to, but... I mean, I just don't have the time to sit down and read it. And especially now with a baby. Like, with a baby, I don't have time to what am I going to read? Like 2 pages?
Yeah, that's fine. That's like a whole chapter. That's what I mean. Anything is something. Like, I think you're treating it as like an all or nothing kind of thing. And that's especially...
It's because that's what I do. That's how I do stuff.
And that's especially not how, like, the One Piece manga is, like, encompassed. Like, it's very much just, like, little bits here and there. Like, no one's gonna give a shit if you're just, like, I can only read for 20 minutes of the manga. It's just, like, good fucking job, bro. Like, that shit's a fucking nightmare.
So we also watched the trailer for Shang-Chi, which... I'm excited for it. I want to see a Kung Fu Marvel movie.
I'm excited for it, but like it's clear that it's just a regular Kung Fu movie with Disney branding.
Yeah, I like it. And Marvel.
Yeah, and Marvel branding, which is like, it's fine. Like, that's exactly what I expected for Shang-Chi. But it's like, don't lie to me being like, hey, this is this great new experience that you've never seen before. And it's just like... Yes, I have.
It's definitely something that you take as like a chapter of One Piece. Like, you think it doesn't matter, but you have to read it.
But this has more significance because it's like, we haven't had a real MCU, like, canon product for like a year and a half.
Sucks. Next one is Black Widow, I believe.
But see, that's what I mean, because it's like, what's Black Widow gonna add to the MCU narrative?
Nothing.
Like, MCU is just more about like... backstory on this bitch that's already dead.
I feel so bad for Warner Brothers, bro. Like...
that, like, Disney can do literally anything and make a butt ton of money.
Dude, and they're still doing it. But, like, I was gonna tell you this, like... I lend you my favorite Batman story.
I read it, I promise.
And it's not even the full fucking story. It's just, like, the first volume.
Yeah, I noticed that. That was weird.
And... it's so great, and you don't read it.
I read it.
You didn't read it. You just said in this podcast before
I read it.
That you didn't read it.
I read it.
But Warner Brothers DC has great stories, and sometimes you undermine them because it's like the all-time whatever superhero American storytelling for superheroes.
Yeah.
And I feel that you like Marvel better because Spider-Man's your favorite Marvel.
Spider-Man's my favorite,
right?
yes, sir.
So he's very relatable. He's in high school. He goes to college.
He says dumbass jokes.
He's a dumbass thing. Blah blah blah. And I feel like what you miss to appreciate from the DC is that it's an original character in a fake fictional world,
right?
But with things that you can relatable things to them, like for example Batman losing his parents. I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate to that. Fucking Superman being adopted, I'm pretty sure a lot of people can relate to that. Fucking the Flash fucking losing his mom or something like that, and his dad is in jail, and
that reminds me more of anime of anything.
No, and that's what I'm saying. And I feel like sometimes you don't see the similarities of what you like in anime and this like mainstream American comic book telling.
Right.
And that's why you haven't read Batman.
I'm gonna read it.
You're not gonna read it.
You didn't give me the second half. That's why I didn't finish it. But you're right. You are right. I'm not gonna lie to you. I grew probably when I think of DC Marvel rivalry. And what I think, the project or the publication or the project that I resonate with most and that what I remember most of is not even the MCU. It's the Spider-Man animated series from the 90s, the 1995.
You know what I mean? That's excellent. My bad.
no, but it was in that same vein. They were coming out at the same time, and it was just I don't even know how I watched it. Maybe at 6 in the morning, on
at
TV.
Random.
That's what I'm saying. I don't even know how it came up, but I remember seeing episodes with the lizard or
the water guy,
the guy with the fucking globe on his head, and Spider-Man just whole ass not even busting out crazy powers, just being I resent you psychologically, and and I understand you, and I manipulate this. And maybe my first boner ever might have been when Catwoman was introduced, if we're being completely honest.
Okay, I like it. I like the honesty.
I was maybe 5-6 years old. And I remember seeing Catwoman and being whoa. I need to see 80% of that character more.
The pink Power Ranger?
So that bitch is wearing black latex with white hair.
Her boobs are rubbing up.
She wants to rub her butt on Spider-Man's wiener.
I'm Spider-Man.
I'm Spider-Man now. But yeah, absolutely. Just I don't even know what the fuck we're talking about. Just read comics and manga, people.
Yeah, but you're just gonna read comics, so it's okay.
I'm gonna read it. I promise you, from this episode to the next recording, which will probably be in the next 6 days, on Sunday, I will have read the Batman comic that you lent me.
Volume 1.
I promise.
Scott Snyder.
Yes, I promise.
Greg Capullo.
I promise. I'll have read it.
All right. Do we have anything else for the Nerd Down?
That's about it. Yeah. And I just want to thank everybody and just reiterate for the third time, please use hashtag LGBTnerds in an original tweet or Instagram post to be automatically entered into our June giveaway. For every like and retweet on original tweet or Instagram post, we will donate to the Borderland Rainbow Center of El Paso. And this has been Between
Nerds.
Thank you.